Hello, welcome to the Fanfic Majesty. 9TOFL. Chapter 46. Attack on Kaidan Part 2. Well, hello there, pretty lady, if you're available, why don't we stop somewhere and grab a bite to eat? Those were Finral's exact words as he went from woman to woman around the capital, saying it in his most suave, confident voice, but each and every attempt he made was met with a similar response. I'm busy right now. You're a black bull, stay far away from me, you nut job. You don't look like my type. Sorry, but I already have a boyfriend, and he's standing right behind you. The spatial mage sighed as he walked down a street. Damn, I think today has been my worst streak yet. It's a good thing I was able to get away from that last guy. He was as muscular as Asta and he looked like he wanted to kill me. Note to self, ask a girl if they're in a relationship before flirting with them. He then took out his communication device. Captain Yami and the others should be done at headquarters. He might call me soon. Best that I make my way there. He then looked up, seeing HQ in the distance. It's not too far away. I won't need to use a portal. Finral walked for about 3 minutes before the communication device began flashing and making a soft buzzing sound. That must be him. He pushed a button on it, forming a projection of Yami, but due to his quick breathing and the constant change of background behind him, it was obvious he was running. Something the matter, Captain? Finral asked. Hey, tell me where you are. Are you close to headquarters? Yami asked back. Yeah I am. I'm on the east side, just about half a kilometer away, the spatial mage replied. You mind telling me what's going on? I'll explain once I reach you, Yami replied. On second thought, never mind, keep your eyes on the sky. Finral raised a brow in confusion and looked up at the blue sky. Keep my eyes on the sky. I don't get it, why would I need to? He was cut off as he saw Yami jump down from the roof of a building. He was holding on to Asta and Charmy, while Kenos was beside him, his sunshine aura spell in use to keep up with the dark mage's speed. The four landed beside Finral. Kenos undid his spell. Yami stepped forward, looking at the spatial mage. Finral, have you ever been to Kaidan before? You mean the town on the border of the Clover and Diamond Kingdoms? Yeah, I've been there before. There are a few good restaurants down there, he replied. It was Kenos who spoke this time. Good, because we need you to take us there. The Diamond Kingdom is attacking. Ah crap, that's bad, we don't have any time to lose, Finral said as he formed a portal, the 5 black bulls immediately running into it and arriving on the other side. They took a quick note of their surroundings. The town looked relatively similar to any other town. The interior was nothing really special. Where's the enemy? They all thought. Their question was quickly answered as they heard an explosion coming north of where they were. Yami gritted his teeth. Time to kick some ass, he said, running in the direction of the explosion. He turned his head back to his squad members. You guys focus on getting any citizens you see to safety, only fight diamond soldiers if necessary. Wait, Captain Yami, there's something I wanted to talk to you about. Kenos called, about to run over to him, but stopped, turning back to look at the injured swordsman. But I promised I'd keep Asta safe, he then thought, his expression falling. Charmy spotted it and realized what he was thinking. It's all right Kenos, go with the captain, Finral and I will keep Asta safe. Kenos' eyes widened. You sure? The cotton mage gave him a thumbs up. You bet, I'm your superior, so it's an order. Thanks a lot, the solar mage said gratefully as he ran to Yami, the two then running until they were out of view. Yami turned to the young noble. So, what did you want to talk to me about? Well, it's about Ki. I promised that I'd do my best to learn it, but in the end, I never did. I thought I did during my fight with Veto, but it turned out to be something else, Kenos replied. I guess I'll never be like you and Asta, he said, but unlike the other times when he said it in a somber tone, this time, his voice was monotonous, as if it didn't bother him. The Black Bull's captain blew smoke from his cigarette, a carefree look appearing on his face. Don't worry about it. Besides, remember what I said yesterday. I was able to see all of the fights with Veto, including yours. I saw you make that mana charge technique, and you did it using the basics of Ki. Don't look at it like failing, look at it like you've learned Ki in your own unique way. Thanks, Kenos said to him. Yami grinned. No problem. So, when do you plan on teaching me how to use it? If I can couple that with my dimension slash, just imagine how many times I could break through my limits. Sorry Captain, but no way, I'm still a bit shaky with it. I've only ever used it successfully one time. I think that at full strength, I can only manage 2, the solar mage responded before he gave a playful smirk. And even if I did know it well, I'd never teach it to you, you'd become way too strong. The dark mage began to laugh. That's okay, what's the worst that can happen? Kenos looked at him and joined in, the two laughing together. They stopped a few seconds later, but smiles were still on their faces. However, that changed as another explosion was heard. It was a lot closer this time, meaning they had nearly arrived at their destination. Yami's happy face quickly disappeared, replaced by a look of seriousness. That was a good talk, But we're getting closer, we can't let ourselves get sidetracked. Keno's face changed too, replaced by a look of equal seriousness as his captain. Right, he replied as the two continued running. Come on men, there's a magic knight, and she's all by herself, let's take her out. A diamond soldier screamed as 7 of them ran towards a girl with light green hair tied in a ponytail, and she wore glasses. The girl was none other than the compass mage of the Golden Dawn, Latois. 7 against 1. That doesn't seem fair, she said nonchalantly as her grimoire flipped to a page. Compass creation magic. Defying East. She exclaimed as she grabbed hold of her rapier as slashed through the heptad of soldiers. You'd need nearly double that amount if you want to stand a chance against me, she said, finishing her earlier statement. Latois then noticed a squadmate about 4 yards from her. Klaus, how are you holding up? Need any help? No, I'll be just fine. Steel creation magic. Spiral lance. He replied before declaring as his drills caused brutal, but not life-threatening injuries to his opponents. We're going to make you pay for that. A new pair of diamond soldiers exclaimed as they ran into the scene, standing on opposite sides of the side steel mage, they simultaneously fired a magic bullet attack. I can only protect myself against one of those attacks, my best option is to get out of the way, Klaus silently deduced. But before he could get out of the way, Latois sprinted to him, her grimoire already on her desired page. Compass magic. Willful compass. She exclaimed, forming 2 compasses, each on an opposite side, the 2 attacks were redirected into some nearby building. Don't give them time to attack again. Klaus quickly ordered as he and Latois stood back to back, each firing their iconic projectiles at the 2 soldiers, defeating them. So, how do you think the others are doing? Latois asked. They'll be fine, after all, they are our squadmates, Klaus replied. I am a bit worried that Mimosa broke off from us so abruptly to find townspeople and or magic knights who needed healing, but luckily, Hammond went with her. Just then, running was heard, the 2 Golden Dawn turned to see 20 diamond soldiers, all staring right at them. Well, I did say they'd need more soldiers if they wanted to take me on, Latois commented. Did they hear me or something? I guess I should have stayed quiet. Don't worry, we can take them on together, we are Knights of the Golden Dawn, we won't lose to the Diamond Kingdom, that would be a disgrace to both our squad, and to Captain Vengeance, Klaus told her as they stood back to back. You're right, losing isn't an option, she said back as she tightened her grip on her rapier. Come at me, they exclaimed as the diamond soldiers wasted no time in charging straight for them. Mimosa, here's another one. Hammond exclaimed as he ran to the plant mage, carrying a man on his back, the man's right arm and leg were severely lacerated, blood flowing from them. Mimosa was kneeling down, using her princess healing flower robe to heal a little girl. The plant and glass mage broke off from Latois and Klaus in order to find an injured people. They located a large square of the town that was fairly untouched by the diamond soldiers. Mimosa stayed there and cared for people while Hammond went out and brought more injured people to her. Thanks, Hammond, she said as the pudgy noble gently set the man down. Mimosa quickly moved in, inspecting his injuries and beginning to heal him. She then looked up to see Hammond breathing heavily. Are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine, it's just that I've been doing a lot of running. I don't do much running, and it isn't easy, he replied, still catching his breath. I'm sorry, it wasn't right of me to stay here while you move around, especially since it's out of your comfort zone, Mimosa told him. Don't worry, it's not your fault. As well as combating the diamond forces, it's necessary that we also assure the safety of the people here, Hammond said, finally regaining his breath. It may not be in my wheelhouse, but I'll do it anyway. I'm a magic knight of the Golden Dawn. Under Captain Vengeance, I won't let running stop me. Besides, I could use some exercise anyway, he said the last part with a bit more enthusiasm. Mimosa smiled. That's good to hear. The glass mage did a quick stretch. All right, I better go find some more people around here, he said, his grimoire coming up to him as it flipped through pages. Glass magic. Veer detection. At his call, multiple glass panes appeared, scattering around him. A beam of light shot from his grimoire, hitting the panes and bouncing from one to another. One pane appeared in front of him, letting him see whatever was in view of the light. This part of the town is almost cleared of citizens. They all seem to be here. That's, he muttered, but stopped once he noticed one image. It was a teenage boy. One of his legs was trapped under debris. He was struggling to pull himself out. Mimosa, I'll be back. There's one more person in this area, Hammond said as he ran in the direction of the panes that showed him where the boy was. The hard part about this was that he was the furthest away from them, meaning that Hammond had to run longer. It didn't take long before the magic knight felt himself getting tired and running out of breath. Damn it, I'm getting tired already. This sucks. But I can't stop. That boy needs someone to save him, and I'm going to be the one to do it. I just have to keep going. He thought, pushing through his growing exhaustion. But after this is over and we get back to base, I'm so going to enjoy a feast. The glass mage kept running. 10 minutes later, he arrived at the spot and began looking around. Where is that boy? Somebody, help. The voice was weak yet loud enough for Hammond to notice. He ran and made a turn around a building, his eyes widening as he saw the boy. Don't worry, I'm here, he exclaimed, running to him. Eh? Magic Knight? The boy weakly asked. That's right, I'll get you out of here, Hammond replied with a nod as his grimoire flipped to a new page. Glass creation magic. Ver fleur. He exclaimed, the glass rising from the ground. Hammond made sure that the glass only propelled the debris, not hitting the boy. Once the boy was free, Hammond put him on his back. He inspected the boy's leg. It was nearly crushed, blood was flowing freely out of it. Shit, he must have lost a lot of blood at this point. I need to get him to Mimosa, he thought, ready to leave. Not so fast, Magic Knight, a voice spoke. Hammond turned around to see two diamond soldiers. Their grimoires were already out. Oh come on, I'm already running low on energy and have to bring this boy to get aid. Now I have to face these guys. The best plan would be to run, but that could lead them straight to Mimosa's triage, and she doesn't have any offensive spells, which means I need to fight them, he thought. He turned his attention to the boy. This might take some time. Can you hold out before I get you some aid? Yeah, I should be fine. Nothing but my leg's injured, the boy croaked. Good, I promise I'll finish this and get you help, Hammond said, turning his attention back to the diamond soldiers, an amused smile coming to his face. Now, I better take you down quick. You're no match for a knight of the Golden Dawn. We'll see how confident you are when we're done with you, one of the soldiers exclaimed as they both blasted magic bullets. Hammond moved quickly, yet carefully, evading the attacks while making sure not to unease the boy on his back. As I said, no match. I don't have time to waste. Glass creation magic. Ver épée. At his call, he threw his hands up into the air, causing glass swords to erupt from the ground. The swords succeeded in impaling the soldiers' arms and legs in multiple spots. The glass mage then put his hands down, sending the swords back down. The soldiers fell to the ground, blood coming out of their wounds. Unless someone comes here, you'll most likely bleed out and die. That was a lot faster than I was expecting it to be, Hammond said as he took a deep breath and started running towards Mimosa's triage. I wonder how the others are doing. Klaus and Latois, Captain Vengeance, oh, and that boy. Wind magic. Towering tornado. Cast the large tornado spell, blowing a multitude of soldiers away. The wind mage scattered from the rest of his squadmates. He noticed Klaus, Mimosa, and Latois go in a different direction than him, so he didn't want to be paired up with another squadmate. Unfortunately, he couldn't get what he wished. In the name of our captain, William Vengeance, you will be defeated, the voice belonging to none other than Alexdora, his grimoire flipping to a page. Sand creation magic. Sand armored heavy guard. He exclaimed, summoning the large golem. The golem swiped its hand, crashing into multiple soldiers as well. Looked at Alexdora from the corner of his eye, groaning. Out of all of his squadmates, he liked the sand mage the least, his classist views being the defining reason. He wished he could just fight alone. Hey, Alexdora, there are no more soldiers here to fight. I say we split up and move around the town. There's bound to be more soldiers there, as well as citizens to evacuate, he said. Alexdora turned to him, his facial expression showing blatant anger. Don't tell me what to do, you dirty slum rat. Don't think you're better than me, remember your place. Belle flew out, landing on Yuno's shoulder. Her face showed her annoyance. Would you just shut up? Yuno is tired of your shit, and so am I. You are so annoying. Yuno put a hand in front of Belle, prompting her to stop her rant. He looked at his superior. You don't have to do what I say, but I'm not going to be the one to tell Captain Vengeance people were injured because someone chose not to listen. Alexdora grit his teeth, internally knowing Yuno had a point. Fine, but just for the record, I was planning to do that already. He furiously ran in another direction. A minute after the sand mage was out of view, Yuno spoke up. Belle. The wind spirit looked up, assuming Yuno was going to lecture her for her outburst. Don't blame me, that guy was asking for it. No, it's not that. I wanted to say nice job. I've been wanting to tell him off for some time, but he's still my superior. You, however, can say whatever you want. Thanks for that. No problem. If you ever want me to tell that bastard off again, just ask, she said, Yuno replying with a small smile, but that smile disappeared as shaking was heard to the side of him. It sounded like it was coming from behind a building. What the? The wind mage muttered as a figure crashed through, destroying an entire house, forming a dust cloud. Once it settled, Yuno took in the figure features. He was wearing similar Diamond Kingdom clothing to Andreas and Mars, but the thing he noticed most was his large brown afro. The mage turned to see Yuno. Oh, a magic knight, and you're from the Golden Dawn. My lucky day. Those barrier mages were weak as hell, no challenge whatsoever. Let's see how you do. Against me, Brox, one of the 8 shining generals. Yuno stood ready. I don't know what a shining general is, but I know you're going down. That's some big talk, can you back it up? Brox exclaimed as he took out his grimoire. It flipped to a page. Red clay creation magic. Raging great boar charge. At his call, a large boar made out of red clay formed, Brox jumped on, riding the boar like he would a horse as he charged at Yuno. A straightforward attack, simple, Yuno stated as he merely thrusted himself up with wind, letting the boar charge into a building. As he landed, another voice was heard. You use your magic quite beautifully. He turned to see a mage standing on a roof. His attire had a similar design to the one Brox wore, but he had blue hair. Brox is just a brute. It'd be better to meet your end fighting me, Laguz. Yuno narrowed his eyes. I take it you're a shining general. Laguz proudly nodded. That's right. Hey, Laguz, stay out of my fight. Brox exclaimed. Wrong. This is my fight, Laguz countered. Why don't find someone else to fight? I'm pretty sure the captain of the Golden Dawn is here. He can be your opponent. Wouldn't that be better? Now you're talking sense. That captain is as good as dead once I find him. Brox exclaimed as he ran away, soon out of view. Laguz then turned to Yuno. Sorry for the interruption, shall we? He asked, but didn't wait for a response as he took out his grimoire. Lightning creation magic. Thunderbird cavalry. He then exclaimed as the Thunderbird he was riding earlier manifested in front of him. A page flipped in Yuno's grimoire. Wind creation magic. Swift white hawk. Rider. He exclaimed as his familiar bird spell appeared, but this time, it was much larger, allowing the wind mage to jump on top of it. As the two mages soared into the sky, from afar, standing on top of a roof, a familiar face watched them. It appears Laguz has found someone to fight. I wonder how Brox and Yagos are doing. The voice belonged to Lotus Homalt, the smoke mage of the Diamond Kingdom. He whistled. Lastly, I wonder what am I going to do? Oh, sorry, he began, turning around to see two taller figures, completely obscured by the shadow projected by an adjacent taller building. I meant we. Should we stay up here, Lotus? One of the figures asked. No, let's head down and see if we can find any magic knights. We can't forget why we came here, to capture Khitan for the Diamond Kingdom, Lotus replied as the three of them jumped down and landed on the ground before walking forward. This is actually my first time in Khitan. I wonder what kind of resources they have. Knowing something like that is important, and then there are their establishments. A great place to take my daughters sometime. He began saying but stopped as his eyes picked up on something below him. Something that looked familiar, yet unnatural. He knelt down and looked at it. Their roots, but there wasn't a tree here before. I'm sure of it since we passed here. It's most likely someone's spell. Lotus voiced out to his two companions. He then placed a finger on the roots, immediately being met with a tingly feeling. Yup. Definitely a spell. It drains magic power just by touch. The smoke mage then stood up straight, quickly noticing the roots beginning to move, or rather, to grow. It belongs to someone of the Clover Kingdom, but how do we find them? The same figure asked again. Oh, that part will be easy, Lotus replied with a darkish smile as he pointed at the roots, and then turned to his left, showing that it kept going. The roots of a tree are properly locked to the ground before the plant starts to grow. These roots have been locked in, so all we have to do is follow it until we reach the tree. With that, the three foreign mages followed the roots path. Meanwhile, Yuno and Laguz were in the air, exchanging attacks with each other. At the moment, neither mage had done enough to claim victory. I didn't expect someone as young as you to be fighting so well against me. You must be one of those nobles, or even a royal, but it doesn't matter what big family you hail from. Your death is inevitable, Laguz said. You're wrong, Yuno replied. I'm not from some big shot family. I'm just a commoner who works hard and has a little luck on my side. Wind creation magic, swift white bow. He said before exclaiming, firing 3 arrows of wind at his opponent. It didn't take much for Laguz to evade it. A commoner, you say? Then that's even more impressive. The peasants in our country are just useless people who serve one purpose: to do whatever it takes for the sake of the Diamond Kingdom, even if it costs them their worthless lives. The wind mage grit his teeth. How can you say that about your own countrymen, bastard? He yelled angrily, partially because he was mad at Laguz, but also to let off some steam from his earlier talk with Alekdora. My, you became quite feisty. Lightning magic. Shock wave. He exclaimed as he raised his hands up before slamming them down, forming an airborne tidal wave of electricity, its width spanning a decent amount of yards. Crap. I can't dodge that by moving to the side. I need to fly down, Yuno muttered as the hawk responded to his command, doing a backflip before taking a nosedive, quickly recovering as they were officially safe from the attack. Wind magic. Crescent moon sickle. Yuno exclaimed, using his hand to fire the crescent-shaped blade of wind. Laguz merely fired 2 magic bullets, the attacks canceling out each other. He then smirked. Well, this fight has been fun, but I don't want to take too long on just one person, so I'll finish you, but first, I'd like to know your name, so I can add it to my list of defeated opponents. My name is Yuno. Yuno. Odd name, but no matter, Laguz commented as his grimoire turned to a familiar page. Behold the spell that allowed us to invade this town. It will be your last. Lightning creation magic. Thunderbird cavalry. Sky-splitting magic bow armament. At his call, the large bow appeared, its 6 arrows ready to take off at the mage's command. Yuno looked a little worried. If it could take down the barrier, there's no way I could beat it head on. That means I need a new approach. TCH, if only it didn't involve me acting like Asta, he thought as he commanded the hawk to fly straight at Laguz. The general widened his before laughing. What's this? You're coming straight at me. Is this some last-ditch effort, or a suicide attempt? Either way, you're going to die, he exclaimed as he released the bowstring, sending the arrows at the wind mage. You were right the first time. This is a last-ditch effort, but it's one that will succeed. Yuno exclaimed in response as he suddenly stood up and jumped off the hawk. At the same time, the hawk flew down, both of them completely evading the arrows. Interesting. You came at me and waited until I fired my attack. The arrows were going to strike exactly where you just were, so you jumped off to elevate yourself higher into the air, successfully dodging the attack. I must say, I'm impressed. I didn't think you'd try something so risky, Laguz deduced. Neither did I, but there's someone I know who would, Yuno said back. Someone you know? I really don't care, but this is something you didn't account for, Laguz said. While you were able to dodge my arrows, you abandoned your hawk, meaning that you've sacrificed nearly all your aerial mobility. You're heading straight for me with no way to stop. His grimoire flipped to a different page. That means this attack won't miss. Lightning creation magic. Static thunderpurge. At the sound of his declaration, a large sword of lightning appeared in front of him. He waved his hand forward, sending the sword racing towards Yuno, ready to impale him in a matter of seconds. To his surprise, the wind mage smirked. You're partially right again. I have sacrificed most of my aerial mobility, but not all of it, he said before thrusting himself upwards using a strong blast of wind, dodging the attack. I'll never let myself get hit by a sword hailing from your country. He then exclaimed, remembering his mission back in the dungeon where he was put in a compromising situation by Mars Levadine not once, but twice. You might have failed to hurt me, but that impalement plan of yours wasn't so bad, so I think I'll borrow it, Yuno said smugly as his grimoire flipped to a page. Wind creation magic. Celestial trident of notice. He exclaimed, forming a one-pronged trident out of wind, the speed of his descent allowing him to impale Laguz' side before he could react. Damn it, he muttered as he fell off his Thunderbird, the magic construct soon disappearing. Yuno was also starting to fall towards the ground, but his hawk swooped up, letting Yuno rest on its back. The magic knight watched as Laguz continued to fall, crashing onto the same roof he was standing on minutes earlier. Not a bad fight. Hey, Yuno. The wind mage looked down on his shoulder to see Belle. Yeah. Not that I didn't enjoy watching you kick ass, but why didn't you ask me to help you? You made that jump because you didn't have enough power to take down those arrows, right? I could have boosted your magic. It wasn't guaranteed that it'd succeed. Neither of us is aware of the spell's actual strength against another attack, and I don't want to rely on you too much. Your power may be beside me, but I still need to become stronger myself, Yuno explained before a small smile came to his face. And look on the bright side, that move I pulled gave me quite the thrill. I suppose Asta isn't that much of an idiot after all, he was saying, but was interrupted by a loud scream. Ah, is anybody there? The wind mage groaned, recognizing the voice. And I stand corrected. Although, I didn't expect Asta would be here. He flew downwards towards the voice, with Asta screaming. It didn't take long to find him. Yuno jumped off the hawk as it vanished. He saw his rival, directing people to safety, but it didn't take him long to notice his dual-slung arms. Asta, he exclaimed, running to the swordsman. Asta turned around. A smile appeared on his face. Hey Yuno, I didn't think you were this close. How have you? What happened to your arms? You didn't train too long, have you? Tell me. Yuno interrupted, acting completely different from his cool and collected self. Asta was surprised for a few seconds, but then gave a warm smile. Despite how Yuno may act, they were foster brothers and it was the first time he had sustained such an injury, so it made sense Yuno was concerned. No, I didn't train too long. The squad had a run-in with the Eye of the Midnight Sun during a mission yesterday, and broke my arms, but it's nothing to worry about. Give it a few weeks and it should be just fine, Asta replied confidently. Yuno breathed a sigh of relief, quickly returning to his old attitude. That's good, get better. Asta then got closer to the wind mage. Now that I think about it, you look different. What could it be? Oh, you got a new wardrobe. Oh, that's right, Yuno remembered. He was no longer wearing his black turtleneck and dark brown khakis under his robe. He now wore a more official-looking attire, comprising of a hooded, long-sleeved white jacket and long white pants, with a large strip of blue going down the center along with some shades of red and gold. All right, over here should be fine, Charmy said, a good few yards away from the two rivals. She was commanding her army of striking sheep to carry injured people onto a large cotton cloud she made, with Finral using his magic to help her. That should be everyone in this area, hopefully. The Golden Dawn is handling the other areas, Finral said. Good, she replied before turning to where Asta was, ready to ask him to do something, but didn't utter a word as she saw who was beside him. She finally spoke up. Yuno, she exclaimed, running towards him. Yuno heard his name being called and turned to see who was calling him, A smile came to his and Belle's face once he saw who it was. Charmy. They called together. He quickly squatted down and extended his 2 hands forward as she gave him a 2-handed high five before giving Belle a 1-handed high five. It's so great to see you two again, the cotton mage said, flashing her bracelet. Yuno and Belle did the same. Me too. I was wondering if we could have another hangout, Belle stated. That would be so much fun, Charmy agreed. I didn't know you two were such good friends, Asta spoke up. Yuno nodded before smirking. Jealous. What? No way, I'm glad you're becoming friends with my friends, he replied. Finral then walked up. Asta looked right at him. And speaking of my friends, this is Finral Rulacase, our squad's spatial mage. Finral, this is Yuno. Finral bowed respectively. Hello, I've heard a lot about you from Asta. Yuno bowed as well. It's good to meet you too. So, what exactly are you doing around this specific area, Yuno? Asta asked. I just beat a shining general a few minutes ago, and then I heard your screaming. Finding you was easy, he explained. What? You beat one of those 8 shining general guys, awesome. The swordsman exclaimed, starry-eyed. Thanks, but it's best that I stay here for now. I can help Charmy and Finral keep you safe seeing that you can't use your sword at the moment, Yuno told him. Sure, I don't mind you staying here, Asta said before a thought entered his mind. It's been some time since Yami and Kenos ran off, I wonder how they're doing. Everything is going according to plan, William said as he stood alone in a large part of the town. A smile was on his face as he bent down, looking intently at the ground. He then took out his communication device, pushing a button as a screen appeared. Langris, how are all the others doing in subduing the diamond forces? I stopped by every area. The soldiers have all been defeated, he replied, but the screen was constantly shaking, meaning the vice captain was running. And how are you doing? William then asked. I had an earlier encounter with a shining general. We engaged, but he got away, so I'm currently pursuing him, Langris replied once more. All right, keep up the good work. Be careful, William said as the transmission ended. I finally found you. William heard an exclamation. He turned around and saw Brox. Under his mask, he raised a brow. I'm sorry, but who are you? Don't mock me. I am Brox, one of the 8 shining generals. The red clay mage replied. He pointed at the masked mage. And I take it you're the captain of the Golden Dawn. I am. You may call me William Vengeance, he replied. Good to know. Now get ready to die. Your forces may have defeated ours, but I will prevail against you. Brox exclaimed as his grimoire flipped to a page. Red clay creation magic. Brilliant armor heavy artillery. He screamed loudly as he became encased in a basic armor made of red clay, but the armor was large, letting him tower over the Golden Dawn captain. William looked slightly impressed. Interesting. I can see how you became a shining general, and your mana levels are impressive too, but you have no chance of beating me, but I'm a merciful man. Take whatever's left of your forces and leave Kaidan, because if you don't, I guarantee you'll never leave this place. More mockery. That's it, I'll kill you as quickly as possible. We of the Diamond Kingdom don't know the meaning of the word surrender. William sighed. Fine then, you've made your choice, you won't even get to attack me. We'll see about that, Brox exclaimed as he moved forward, not noticing William's smirk. It's over, he said. Please look below you. Brox raised a brow. Below me. He looked down and saw Roots, spanned a few feet from him in a circle. Roots. Ha, what's that supposed to do? You're as good as. He didn't get in another word as William clenched his fist, immediately causing the roots to glow, before something shot up from the ground, engulfing Brox. A few seconds later, the thing that engulfed him was plain to see. A large tree. William walked to the base of the tree, seeing Brock's body sticking out of it. The shining general looked at him. What did you do? Exactly what I promised. Behold my power. World tree magic. Great Mistiltine tree, he replied. I spread out roots around the town to gather mana. Once there's enough, the roots assemble together, and at my signal, they formed a ginormous tree. I was initially going to use to act as a vantage point due to its immense height, but it's also capable of capturing people and redistributing their mana through the roots. A tree branch then came down as William walked onto it, his expression remaining composed as he looked at Brock's frustrated and fearful face. I told you, didn't I? You decided to stay, and now, you'll never leave. The branch rose up as the World Tree Mage heard Brock scream before he sunk further into the tree, no longer in sight. William then made it to the top. Ah, what a beautiful view. Goldie boy, I found you. William groaned. Again. And I recognized that voice, but I didn't think he'd be here. He turned around and saw Yami, high up into the air, with Kenos holding onto him. William waved a hand, causing his branch to move towards them, letting them land on it. Yo, thanks for the branch, Yami said as he looked at the tree. I almost forgot how strong you were with those trees of yours. I appreciate the compliment, William said back before turning his attention to Kenos. Hello Kenos, I think this is the first time we've spoken to each other. It's an honor to be in Arasia's presence. Kenos respectfully bowed. Please, Sir William, the honor is mine. You're one of the greatest figures in the kingdom, and by the looks of your magic, I'd say you've earned it. Thank you. William bowed as well. So, Yami, what have you come to talk to me about? It's been a few weeks since my encounter with the Eye of the Midnight Sun in Neen, more specifically, their leader, Licht. I was able to feel his ki during the fight, but during the captain's meeting the next day, I felt your ki, and it felt incredibly similar, Yami explained. Keno's eyes widened. He knew what implication his captain was making. William spoke up. I see, you suspect that I may be Licht. I don't think I'd need to inform you that we use different attributes, and no mage naturally has more than one. True, but my ki doesn't lie, so if you want to prove your innocence, do us a favor. And lose the mask, the dark mage told him, his voice growing deadly serious at the last part. Take off my mask. I've never done it in front of someone in some time, but I suppose I can make an exception for the sake of my innocence, the World Tree Mage said, slowly bringing his hands to his helmet-like mask as he took it off. Yami and Keno's eyes widened. They saw William's short white hair, but what shocked them was the scar on the top half of his face. His hair's the same color as Licht's, but I think I would have noticed the scar, Keno's commented. Yes, I assume my innocence has been proven. I don't blame you for being suspicious. I'm the only captain who publicly hides his face, William spoke up. This scar is some form of a curse. I've had it ever since I was born. People around me believed it was because I'm a bastard child. My father was a noble, but my mother was a commoner. I lived with my mother for 9 years, taking on her last name, Vengeance. Then, when I was 9, I went to go live with my father's family. I take it they didn't like that scar of yours? Yami asked. William nodded. It was already bad enough that I was a bastard child, but that and this scar made my life there a living hell. Until I met Julius, he said he liked my magic, and then he gave this mask. I then swore to do whatever I could for him, for this kingdom. Keno's facial expression slightly fell. Sir William, you said you were a bastard child. I understand how you feel, to be seen as illegitimate. Yes, I remember the early rumors some years back regarding the possible affair of your mother, Lady Ellen, regarding the origins of your birth, he said. Thank you, it's good to know you understand. Yami lit up a cigarette. Well, it seems this was a bust. My key's never been wrong before. Perhaps there's something I'm missing. Alright Keno's, let's head, he was beginning to say, but then his mana detection kicked in, and he sensed an attack coming straight at them. Move. William reacted first, moving their branch out of the way as a beam shot into the air. Damn, and we almost got you too. The 3 Clover Kingdom mages turned around to see 3 figures standing on another branch. Keno's recognized the one in the center. Hey, I know you, you're that guy we fought in the dungeon. Yo, it's good to see you again. I don't think we've been formally introduced. I'm Lotus Homalt, the smoke mage replied, before turning to the dark mage. Hey there, Yami, I wasn't expecting you to be here, it's been some time. Yami gave a look of comedic indifference. Sorry, do I know you? What? I'm Lotus, we had a fight some time ago, whatever, I'll try to jog your memory later. Right now, we have to defeat you and take Kaiden. We? Keno's asked, taking note of the 2 figures behind him. One was quite tall and was completely clad in a mahogany armor with large pauldrons. Flowing in the wind was the Diamond Kingdom's banner. Acting as a cape, a knight's helmet was on their head, with circular outlines for eyes, and a brown plume feather was placed on one side of the helmet. The other person was a man just as large as the first one. He had pale skin and brown eyes. Moving slightly in the wind was his curly, fluffy peach hair, and his attire was similar to the one the Shining Generals wore. But what separated him from Lotus and the first figure was his figure. The man was quite obese. It'd be easy to underestimate him at first sight. On his stomach was a plethora of arrow tattoos. Allow me to introduce these 2, Lotus began, turning to the obese man. This is Tantalus, he then turned to the armored figure. And this big guy over here is Brosnan. These 2 are members of the 8 Shining Generals. Keno sucked his teeth. He wasn't expecting to run into 2 more Shining Generals, but the faces of Yami and William showed some shock. Yami pointed at the armored general. So that's Brosnan. I've heard of him, but I've never actually seen him. William nodded. Yes, he's supposed to be one of the Diamond Kingdom's strongest mages, and their strongest Shining General, also known as Golden Eyes, Brosnan. It seems my reputation precedes me, Brosnan said. This will be the battle that decides the fate of Kaiden. Tell me, mages of the Clover Kingdom. He stepped forward, eyes glowing a bright shade of gold. Do you have what it takes to beat us? Chapter 47. Golden Eyes. Hey there, readers, hope you've been enjoying your day. Earlier on Sunday, I closed the poll I made and checked the results, and the 4 characters who had the highest votes were Zuka, Oksana, Sylvester, and Rama. Thank you so much for participating. To thank you even further, I'll give you some facts about the creation of these characters, except for Rama as he's an OC I didn't make. Zuka Glatenia. If you watch Avatar, The Last Airbender, then you might recognize that Zuka's name is similar to Zuko, I used his name as inspiration for hers. I was even planning to give Zuka flame magic, but decided upon sparkle magic when I decided to put her on the Aqua Deer, which then led to the creation of her last name. Sylvester Rossiu. When making his character, I initially planned to make him Keno's brother, but decided on Dante when I realized Sylvester was too nice of a guy, so I made him Keno's cousin. Oksana Rossiu. When thinking of her attribute, I based it off of the main antagonist of a book I read as a boy, although I don't remember the name of the book. That was a kind of phantom. Keno's Rossiu. I know he only got 2 votes, but he's the MC. I actually named him after my dad. Keno's. His name is what inspired my actual name, and I look up to my dad, so I named the main character of this story after him. With that out of the way, please enjoy the new chapter. CYA. Do we have what it takes? Keno's repeated Brosnan's words in his head as he, Yami, and William stared down the 3 Diamond Kingdom mages. Lotus made the first move, taking out a sword as a relaxed smirk came to his face. Are you just going to stare at us, or are you going to fight? He asked, his blade becoming enveloped in smoke. He then pointed to the dark mage. Come on, Yami, I challenge you. I still don't know why you think I should remember you, but, he began drawing his katana as it became enveloped in darkness. Quote. Nobody steals my technique, one bastard already did it, and I won't let another one do it too. The 2 mages then jumped at each other, their blades clashing in midair. They were at a complete stalemate, but before they could drop all the way to the ground, they jumped back to their respective branches, right next to their respective allies. Yami turned to Keno's and William. Leave this bastard to me, you guys get the other 2. Lotus chuckled. Well, it seems Yami wants to fight me one-on-one, how lucky am I? Brosnan turned his head to face Lotus. Good luck out there, Lotus. But be careful, Yami Sukahiro is no joke, he said, but the tone was different than when he spoke to the Clover mages. This time, his voice was laced with concern. The smoke mage's face softened a bit. I'm touched by your worry, but you don't need to be concerned, I'll be just fine. This isn't the first time we've fought, he responded as he and Yami jumped to a different branch to duke it out. Brosnan then turned his focus on Keno's and William. I guess that means one of you gentlemen will be my opponent, he said before taking out his grimoire. Golden Eye Magic. Heat Ray. At the sound of the mage's declaration, his 2 eyes began glowing a bright shade of gold before he fired 2 straight beams, right at the 2 mages. Keno's was ready to react, taking out his grimoire. I've got this. Solar Creation Magic. Amaterasu's. His declaration was interrupted as William reacted even faster. With a wave of his hand, branches came in front of them, forming a shield to protect them. The World Tree Mage walked up, extending his arm in front of Keno's. Leave this fight to me, Keno's. Brosnan is too powerful of a mage for a rookie to fight alone. You don't need to worry about me, William, I'm a magic knight, just like you, Keno's protested in a respectful manner. That's true, but we must understand the limits of our strength. I know Yami always says that you must push past your limits, and I may not be your squadmate or captain, but that doesn't change the fact that I care for your safety. You're an aspiring young mage, I don't want you to die, William said back. The solar mage thought about everything that was said to him before he sighed. Alright, you can take him on. William smiled. Thank you. He then turned to the Golden Eye Mage. Brosnan, I will be your opponent. I am William Vengeance, captain of the Golden Dawn. On my honor as a magic knight of the Clover Kingdom, I will not permit you to take Kaiden. William Vengeance, I've heard of you. You're quite the big deal, even in the Diamond Kingdom. Although everyone there would rather prefer you dead, it appears the opportunity to make that wish a reality has come to me, Brosnan said. William quickly jumped on a different branch. With a motion of his hand, it began speeding towards Brosnan. I'm off, I guess the last one's yours, Brosnan said to Tantalus as he jumped to a different branch, William on hot pursuit. Keno's looked at the obese mage. So, you're going to be my opponent. You may be on the fat side, but I won't underestimate you. After all, you didn't become one of the 8 shining generals by being weak. Despite what Keno said, Tantalus didn't respond, merely holding his chin in thought. The solar mage raised a brow in a confused manner. Hey, are you listening? The shining general once more said nothing in response. Keno's decided to jump down a few branches in order to get closer to his enemy. Once he did, he was able to hear the diamond mage mumbling something. I wonder what types of food they have here, I can't wait to try them. The solar mage had to resist anime falling as he heard what his enemy was concerned about. He began thinking. Food. We're in the middle of the battle to decide the fate of this town, and he's thinking about food. I don't know why I'm surprised. This is literally Charmy in a nutshell, but maybe this isn't a bad thing. He probably hasn't noticed me. I can take him out now, then go join either William or Captain Yami. His grimoire flipped to a page. Solar magic. Sunbeam ray. He mentally exclaimed as he fired the beam right at Tantalus. But then he did something that Keno's completely wasn't expecting. He merely moved his body a bit to dodge the attack, all while looking like he was still thinking about food, but that didn't last long as Tantalus put his hands down to his sides before looking right at Kenos. You! He exclaimed, pointing at the magic knight. You dare interrupt me when I'm thinking about food, that's unforgivable, I'll kill you, then devour all that's in this damn town. He then took out his grimoire. At the sight of the magical book, Kenos widened his eyes. It didn't take him long to notice a feature of Tantalus' grimoire beside the colors and the diamond in the center. In the center of his grimoire, they're stitches, just like the ones on the grimoires Andreas and Mars used when we fought in the dungeon. That means he's a dual attribute mage too. Tantalus. Grimoire stopped once it reached a page. Giant magic. Full size. He exclaimed as his body began to grow to gargantuan proportions, his height equaling a bit over half of the large tree he was just standing on a few seconds before. Holy shit, he's huge. Kenos screamed as he looked at his opponent. Giant magic might be my artificial attribute, but it's by far my favorite of the two. I can eat more, not to mention I become stronger. Damn it, this just got a lot harder. If he's larger, that also means his range has increased. To match him, I'm going to need to increase both my speed and my strength to their absolute maximum. And I know just the combo to give it to me, Kenos said as he reached into his pocket, pulling out his ring, he put it on and activated it. His grimoire then flipped to a new page. Solar reinforcement magic. Sunshine aura. He exclaimed, becoming surrounded in the orange aura as well. This is my first fight of the day. My mana and stamina are full, unlike my fight with Veto in the underwater temple. Hopefully, I can last longer before I have to use mana charge. I can't let myself stumble behind William and Captain Yami. I have to win too. Kenos then took a step before he flashed forward with the familiar Godspeed, ready to take his foreign enemy down. I almost forgot to ask, but why exactly are you here? Yuno asked his foster brother. Well, as I said earlier, we had a run-in with the Eye of the Midnight Sun yesterday during a mission. As for the specifics of the mission, we were to go down to the underwater temple in Raki to find a magic stone, Asta began explaining. And after we got it, we rested up a bit from the fight before coming to Magic Knight HQ. That's where we were told of the attack on Kaiden, and then, we're here, Charmy finished. Speaking of the attack, I wonder if the Diamond Kingdom has retreated. From what I can see now, their forces don't appear to be advancing. They would have been in this area otherwise, Finral pointed out. I'm going to go look around to see if there are any more. The spatial mage's words were cut short as a large shadow began to loom over them. They all turned. The black bulls immediately widened their eyes while Yuno didn't appear as shocked. What they saw was a ginormous tree that looked like it could cover the entire town. Holy shit, what is that? The black bulls exclaimed together. It's world tree magic, Yuno replied. They looked at him and raised a brow. World tree magic. It seems Captain Vengeance has chosen to get serious. I feel bad for the fool that has to remain in the tree. At the sound of a new voice, the four magic knights turned around once again to see someone standing on a nearby roof. He was wearing a golden dawn robe and had short brown hair. Wait, so that tree is Captain Vengeance's magic. Damn, that thing is huge, but now that I know that, there's one more thing to ask, Asta thought as he pointed at the man. Who the hell are you? Huh, the man said, noticing the group below him. Who am I? This is the vice captain of the Golden Dawn, Langris Vod, Yuno cut in, introducing him instead. That's right, I'm impressed to see the commoner remembers my name and title. Perhaps you're not so bad after all, Langris said with a smug grin on his face as his gaze shifted from Yuno to another mage. Ah, if it isn't the disgrace, I didn't think you'd be here. Charmy was confused. Disgrace? Who's he talking about? There's no disgrace around here. The spatial mage sighed before he stepped up, causing everyone to look at him. He's talking about me. You. Why would he do that? How do you know the vice captain? It was Yuno's turn to ask questions. How do I know him? He's my younger half-brother. Half-brother. I didn't know you had a brother, Asta said. Same here, Charmy added. That makes 3 of us. Yuno finished, but unlike the other 2, he was speaking to Langris. It's true, but since we're only half-brothers, I only need to be half ashamed of the fact that I'm related to him, Langris mocked. Enough, Langris, Finral said. What are you doing here? Well, if you must know, I was pursuing one of the 8 shining generals, but he managed to get away from me, he replied. It's my turn to ask questions now, like why are you here in Kaiden? Were you trying to be useful and fight the Diamond Forces? I wonder how that turned out. Did they beat the crap out of you and make you run away? I'd pay good money to see that. He began laughing. Yuno was mildly shocked. He knew that except for a few people, his squad was loaded with classist douchebags, but it was the first time he had heard someone from his squad mocking a family member who was of the same status. But then again, it wasn't anything new. His mind went back to his first time visiting the capital, and seeing Noelle's situation with her siblings firsthand. Damn, and they like to ridicule us commoners, but the family life of nobles and royals must suck, the Wind Mage thought to himself. Asta and Charmy looked at Finral, They could see him clenching his fists, but it didn't look like he was going to say anything in response, despite being mocked. Well, even if he was going to stand for it, they wouldn't. Hey you. Finral and Langris looked up in surprise to see Asta and Charmy stepping up, their voices full of anger. What did you say about Finral? He's not useless. In fact, during our last mission, he was a huge help. We fought one of the strongest mages of the Eye of the Midnight Sun. If it wasn't for Finral's help, our entire squad could have died. Asta exclaimed. Yeah, and how dare you make Finral out to be a coward? Sure, he can't fight, but he's been brave enough to stand by us during whatever challenge we may face. What kind of guy talks crap about his older brother? Regardless of whether you're half related or not, you know what? You can quite figuratively and literally fuck off. Now there's something I'd pay good money to see. Charmy added, sticking up two middle fingers. You guys, Finral muttered. Langris stopped laughing, his face looking deadly serious before it shifting back to its prior smug look. So, Finral needs a couple of shorties to defend him. I take it you're his squadmates. Well, that explains that rant of yours, but then again, you are the Black Bulls. Your squad is full of failures, with the only exception being that Rossiu boy I heard joined you. After him, everyone there is a total weakling. I bet you're all so weak. Finral's weakness doesn't even stand out. In fact, it makes his weakness look strong. Shorties. We're about the same height. Asta exclaimed. Belle flew over to Yuno. Damn, was the vice captain always this much of a jackass? She whispered. Don't know, I've never really spoken to him, the wind mage whispered back, but regardless, he couldn't take any more, even though Asta, Noel, Charmy, Kenos, and Finral were the only people he knew from the Black Bulls. It wasn't right for Langris to talk bad about fellow magic knights. But before he was about to open his mouth, someone did it faster. You shut up. Everyone widened their eyes and looked to see the exclamation come from Finral, the tone of his voice matching the look on his face. Anger. That's enough out of you. Langris, you can say whatever bad thing you want about me. You've been practically doing that for years, but don't you dare talk bad about my friends or my squad, you hear me? Everyone was taken aback. Yuno looked at him intently. As long as no one mocks those close to him, he'll take whatever ridicule comes his way. I'd be lying to myself if I said I didn't respect that. But nobody was more taken aback than Langris. It had been the first time his older brother had ever retaliated to one of his taunts before, and with such passion as well. The Golden Dawn Knight then involuntarily smirked, either out of mockery or respect, he didn't know. It seems he was beginning to say, but didn't get to finish as an odd sound was heard, like a sloshing kind of sound. The five magic knights didn't know what it was, but they did know where it was coming from, right to their left. They turned, and then they saw it, a figure emerging from the corner of a building. It was an old man, wearing primarily black attire, but he was completely surrounded by weird substance, almost like a kind of mucus. Asta, Charmy, and Langris were the only ones who recognized his face, but only one of them knew his name. Yagos, Langris spoke. The shining general I was pursuing. I didn't think you'd show your face willingly to me, seeing how I almost killed you during our last encounter. Yagos looked down at his right arm, or at least, what remained of it. During his previous encounter with the mage, the Shining General had underestimated his opponent, and it cost him dearly as the Golden Dawn used his spatial magic to cut off a large portion of his arm. You might have almost gotten me back there, but that was because I wasn't taking you seriously, but it won't be the same this time. In fact, I won't take any chances to assure I defeat you. He exclaimed, his grimoire flipping to a page. Mucus creation magic. Mucus nail. At his call, the mucus surrounding him began to change shape, into that of a snail. It then launched an array of tentacles, but not at any of the magic knights. But at the people, the citizens we were caring for. Charmy exclaimed as she and the others watched them be quickly pulled in and absorbed into the mucus. My mucus nail spell doesn't just capture, it drains whatever's captured of their energy until they're dead, Yagos bragged. Now tell me, Magic Knight, how are you going to stop me with the people so close, and their lives ticking down on the clock? Help us. Get us out of here. I don't want to die. Langris heard their screams of terror, pleading for help. He sucked his teeth. Well damn, he really made this tougher, he said, calmly raising up a hand, ready to use it to cut whatever was in its path out of existence, courtesy of his offensive spatial magic. The vice captain looked at it from different angles, but there was no way he could take down Yagos without hitting the people. He then shrugged and opened his mouth to speak, but the words that came out of his mouth put looks of absolute shock on the faces of his fellow magic knights and the wind spirit. I guess I have no choice. These people have to die too. Well, it's for the kingdom. They should be honored to make such a sacrifice. What? They all thought. Langris was about to swipe his hand forward and erase Yagos along with some random citizen, but before he could do it, a powerful gust of wind blew right at him, stopping him. He looked down to see the source of the sudden gale, his gaze falling on Yuno, the wind mage's face indifferent, as well as Belle's face. You bastard, how dare you give up on the people like that, we're magic knights. His gaze then shifted to Asta, who started running at Yagos, Charmy and Finral beside him. Asta, Yuno spoke up. The swordsman stopped and turned to him. The wind mage's voice didn't sound like it, but Asta knew he was concerned. He gave his foster brother a grin. Don't you worry, Yuno, I'll be okay. I'm not doing this alone, he said before running again. Asta, over here, Charmy exclaimed as her grimoire flipped to a page. Cotton creation magic. Wool slingshot. A line of cotton appeared in front of her, slung back at an angle. I'm on it. The magicless mage exclaimed back as he jumped and planted his feet on the slung part. He was then immediately sent flying towards Yagos. You want to try fighting me? It's pointless. If you hit me, you'll get absorbed as well, Yagos said. That's what you think, Asta replied as his grimoire came to him. He dug his head in and pulled out the demon dweller's sword, holding its handle in his mouth. Normally, if Asta had his sword in his mouth and tried to attack, he couldn't build enough kinetic energy to do anything, so my slingshot built it up for him, Charmy stated as she watched Asta hit the mucus around the people, freeing them instead of trapping him. The mucus mage was shocked, and so was Langris. How? The former exclaimed. That doesn't matter right now, Finral. The cotton mage called, pointing to the falling citizens. I got it, Finral replied as his grimoire flipped to a page. Spatial magic. Fallen Angel's Gate. He exclaimed, creating two portals simultaneously, one in the air, and one right above a bed of cotton Charmy made. The people fell into the first portal, and came out of the second one. Yuno gave a small smirk. That was some good coordination, and from what I saw, none of it was planned, that was all just instinct, impressive. It's your turn now, Asta. The spatial mage exclaimed as he formed a portal in front of where the swordsman was going. He flashed right into it. Where is he going to come out from? Yagos silently wondered, but unbeknownst to him, the portal appeared right above his spell. Asta wasn't able to speak with the sword in his mouth, so he merely grunted. It was loud enough for Yagos to hear and turn around, but he was too close for him to do anything. The swordsman cut right through the mucus, the anti-magic making it disappear, causing Yagos to begin falling to the ground. He's not the only one getting a hit on you. This is for endangering those innocent people. Cotton creation magic. Strike of the sleeping sheep. Charmy exclaimed as the large sheep appeared, punching Yagos midair, right into a building, knocking him unconscious. Then, cotton binding magic. Restraining coils. Finral made a portal as Asta was landing, letting him appear right next to them as he put his sword back. That was awesome. You too, thanks for the help, he said. His squadmates merely replied with a thumbs up. Finral then turned to where Langris was. He was still a bit shocked at how efficiently they had defeated the enemy. Langris, you were right earlier. I'm not that strong, and I'm not better than you, but mark my words. One day, the Black Bulls will become better than the Golden Dawn. Langris narrowed his eyes at his older brother. Is that so? It is, the Black Bull said back, turning to his squadmates. Let's move. It's been a while since Captain Yami and Keno split off from us. We should find them in case they need help. Right, Asta and Charmy said back. Oh, Keno's is here too. I wonder what he's doing. Perhaps he's helping one of my squadmates, Yuno thought as the three ran past him. Asta turned around. Hey, Yuno, I know you wanted to keep me safe, but we're going to need someone to stay and watch the people. Don't worry, I can handle it, just try not to overdo it. Charmy, Finral, please have his back, the wind mage responded. He was met with 3 nods as they ran off, and were soon out of view. Langris jumped down the roof, ignoring the stares the people were giving him as he walked to Yuno. The two were then standing just inches away from each other. The vice captain opened his mouth. Listen and listen well, commoner, don't you ever fire wind at me again, his voice was deadly serious. Yuno's face didn't seem to show any care for the spatial mage's tone, he merely turned around. You're the one who should be careful. The job of magic knights is to protect the people, not sacrifice them on a whim. If Captain Vengeance was here to witness your actions, there's not a doubt in my mind he'd demote you on the spot, and that would have been just letting you off easy, because if I were in charge, I'd kick you out immediately. You heard what Asta said, then you saw what he and the others did. Asta, oh, you mean that short boy, now I think about it, I didn't sense any magic coming from him. That move of his was sort of impressive, but he's still just a loser. You're wrong, Yuno said, turning around once again to face the vice captain. He's not a loser, he's my rival, we're competing to see which one of us can become the next Wizard King. Wizard King, Langris laughed. You must be joking. I'm not, and my path to the title of Wizard King will start with becoming the captain of the Golden Dawn, Yuno replied. The wind mage's statement caused Langris to stop laughing, his face became one of seriousness. Become the captain. You do realize that I'm the vice captain, right? I'm fully aware of that. I'm ready to take your position as well, so be careful. The two stared each other down, neither saying a word for a few seconds before Yuno started to make his way towards the citizens. Langris turned around and glared at him, repeating the wind mage's statement in his head. There's no way I'll ever let that happen. Take this. Going back to the fights on the tree, Keno's was jumping from branch to branch at high speeds. The earlier exclamation had come from his opponent. Tantalus had tried to punch him, but with his increased size and the solar mage's increased speed, it was proving difficult. It seems that giant spell is a double-edged sword. You may become bigger, but hitting me is harder, so I'll take full advantage of that, he said as his grimoire flipped to a page. Solar creation magic. Solar construct. Warhammer. Kenos raised a hand into the air as the new construct formed. He then started running towards his giant foe before jumping high into the air. Tantalus saw him and launched a punch. Damn it, he's sending a punch right at me. I know what to do, Kenos thought as he used a basic magic blast to thrust himself upward. He did it just in time as Tantalus' knuckle passed right by where he was just a few seconds ago. There we go, and I'm not done yet, he continued as he planted his feet on the giant mage's fist and began quickly running down his arm. What are you doing? Tantalus asked. Oh, you'll see. Just be patient, Kenos replied as he flashed through before jumping up, appearing right in front of the shining general's face. Thanks for waiting, he continued as he horizontally spun the hammer, slamming it right into Tantalus' head. Normally it wouldn't do much against an enemy of such a large size, but thanks to his enhanced strength due to the ring aura, that wasn't the case. Shit, that hurt, the giant exclaimed. You're going to pay for that, giant magic, Titan blaster. At his call, he backed up and fired a massive beige magic bullet at the solar mage. It's time for my close-up attack. Ah damn it, Kenos thought, quickly using the warhammer to shield himself to the best of its ability. Unfortunately, it didn't do that good of a job and it disappeared, leaving the solar mage defenseless to the attack as it sent him flying right into the large tree. Thankfully, he managed to land on a branch. Well, that just happened. Getting close has its own double-edged sword, he muttered. Are you all right, Kenos? Kenos looked up to see William, standing on the branch above his. He was currently firing a trio of magic bullets at Brosnan, to each the armored general either dodged or shot down. I'm doing all right, what about you? Could be better. Brosnan is really proving himself to be quite the adversary, William replied before taking a look at the solar mage's opponent. It appears Tantalus is quite tough as well. Are you sure you can handle him? Don't worry, he just got in one shot, and I won't let him get a second one, Kenos replied before he realized something. I wonder how Captain Yami's doing. I bet he's fine. Your captain is no weak mage. Despite the large gap in reputation between our two squads, he and I are basically at the same level of strength, the World Tree Mage assured him. I hope you're right, the Solar Mage said. As do I, William said as his gaze fell back to Brosnan, his grimoire flipping through pages before stopping on one. World Tree Magic. Dracena Formation. He exclaimed as he placed his hand on the branch, instantly causing roots to grow and wrap around Brosnan, constricting him tightly. An impressive attack. But it's not strong enough to hold me. Brosnan exclaimed as magic surged around him, breaking the roots. Golden Eye Magic. Multi-spread barrage. At his call, he placed a pair of fingers on the side of his helmet and began firing golden lasers in rapid succession. William quickly responded by commanding branches to cross together and protect him. While they were doing so, he jumped onto a different branch. From what I could see, Brosnan appears to be a long-range style offensive mage, meaning that he would be vulnerable against close-range attacks, but then you have to factor in that armor which bolsters his defense. Wait a minute, that gives me an idea, Kenos thought, keeping his gaze on the Golden Eye Mage, but that didn't last long as a shadow loomed over him. He looked forward and gasped before jumping into the air, just managing to dodge Tantalus' punch. Ah, I almost got him, the giant mage pouted. Kenos landed on another branch and looked at his ring, surprised to see only one outline went black. I should be able to use the ring aura combo for another 10 to 12 minutes if it's dropping this slow, but back to my idea, Tantalus' large size made him slow, but his Titan Blaster spell makes up for it if opponents try to get close. Just like Brosnan, they possessed a factor that compensated for a weakness in their fighting, so I shouldn't try to exploit Tantalus' weakness, but overpower his strength. That means I'm going to need to use it, he thought as he closed his eyes. Feel what's around you, was all he muttered before he opened his eyes, smiling as he once again saw the white beads of mana around him. It's getting just a little easier despite the fact that I learned how to do it less than 24 hours ago, although, I still have to stand still to do it. Learning to do it while moving would be awesome. First, I need to locate Tantalus. He stopped his sentence midway as he looked at Tantalus, or rather, the mana around. It was beige in color, but one more thing was obvious about it. Holy shit, his mana is huge, just as huge as him. It must have grown when he used his full-size spell, Kenos thought before he started to focus, drawing the neutral mana close to him. He then grinned. It's ready. Solar Magic. Mana Charge. Solar Cross Destroyer. He formed the two X's and divided one before shooting it at the giant mage. What the? Why can't I move? Tantalus wondered. Even though the X's were vastly smaller than their target, they were still succeeding in immobilizing him, but with his large size, immobilization was all they could manage instead of the crushing feeling that his fellow diamond mages were subjected to during the dungeon mission. All right, Kenos exclaimed, jumping into view. Tantalus saw him and did his best to extend his hand to him, but it was futile as the solar mage clenched his fist, releasing the powerful blast right at his enemy's arm. Ah! Tantalus screamed in pain, his arm was starting to bleed from multiple areas. He's wide open, I should attack again, solar creation magic, rain of solar daggers. Kenos continued as the daggers began to fall, heading for the shining general's injured arm. Tantalus grit his teeth. I just wanted to capture this damn town and eat some scrumptious food, but it seems I can get neither, and it's all because of you. His grimoire flipped to a page, but the spells on that page were of a different attribute. Behold the power of my original attribute, food recovery magic, Ambrosia's delicacy. He exclaimed as he began breathing it, creating a vacuum that drew in Kenos' daggers and sent them straight into his mouth. He's eating my spell. Kenos was beyond confused. That confusion only rose once he noticed Tantalus' injured arm was beginning to heal itself. He landed on a branch. That's the power of my original magic, and I'm not done yet. Food creation magic, Persephone's hammer. The dual mage exclaimed as he formed a large hammer, named after the Greek goddess and queen of the underworld. He then swung it towards Kenos, breaking 4 branches in the process. Son of a bitch, Kenos muttered as he dodged and jumped to a different branch. Not even mana charge could take him down. I think I could only manage to do it one more time, so I have to make it count. Onto the last pair of adversaries, Yami and Lotus. The two were fighting on a high part of the tree, separated from their respective allies. Their blades clashed time after time again. The sound of steel was ringing out, but no one else heard it. Lotus backed up as his grimoire flipped to a page. Smoke magic. Haze slash. He exclaimed, firing a crescent-shaped slash of smoke from his blade. I said stop copying me. Dark magic. Dark cloaked lightless slash. Yami exclaimed back as he fired a slash of his own, the two attacks canceling each other out. I'm not copying you, Yami, we both knew those spells, during our first battle some years back, don't you remember? Lotus said before asking. I already told you, I don't know you, Yami replied. Maybe this will remind you, the smoke mage said as he stabbed his blade into the ground and unbuttoned the top half of his shirt before opening it, revealing a large scar going across his chest. Ew, what the hell are you doing? Yami asked with a look of comedic indifference as he looked away. This is the scar you gave me during our last fight, I've never forgotten it, it was during my early years of being a diamond soldier, Lotus explained. Yami then looked at him, and then, it clicked. That scar. Hey, I remember you, Smokey. Lotus chuckled. That's what you called me when we first met. The dark mage chuckled too. I know, hey, how are your kids doing? I remember you saying you wanted to live so you could see your daughters again. They're doing just fine, they're all grown up. Soon they'll find husbands and move out. It makes me feel old, Lotus replied. Don't worry about it, they have to go eventually, Yami said before he pointed his katana at him. His face grew serious. Sorry about this, Smokey, I don't feel good about killing a father, but the fate of Kaiden depends on one of our sides losing. Lotus grabbed his blade and pointed it at Yami. I understand, but don't hold back, we both have obligations to our kingdoms. His grimoire flipped to a page. Smoke creation magic. Smog lash. He exclaimed as a whip of smoke appeared on top of his sword. He then jumped up into the air as made a whip motion with it. Yami read the key of his opponent and dodged his attack. The whip then disappeared as Lotus began falling down, but he made the most of it as he prepared his blade for an aerial strike. The dark and smoke mages clashed once more, but the force of the clash caused the branch under them to snap, causing them to freefall onto another branch. By complete coincidence, they landed next to William as he was in the middle of blocking one of Brosnan's attacks. Hey there, Goldie, how are you holding up? Brosnan isn't giving you too hard of a time? Yami asked with his back facing the World Tree Mage. I'm doing fine, it seems you and Lotus are evenly matched, William responded. Lotus poked his head out. Hey there, William, I almost forgot to ask how you were doing. I'm doing just fine, what about you? Are your daughters doing well? He asked back. The smoke mage smiled. They're doing great, nice and tall and healthy, he replied as he and Yami continued to push back with their blades. William smiled as well. That's good to know. We may be from different kingdoms and are enemies, but it doesn't hurt to be friendly. Tell me about it. It baffles me sometimes how we can talk so casually to one another when we're literally trying to kill each other, Lotus realized. Well, we better get back to it. Let's go, Smokey. Yami exclaimed as they broke the clash. He then jumped into the air. Right behind you. Lotus jumped up as well. William commanded his branches to fall so he could launch another attack, but the armored general reacted first. I was waiting for you to drop your shield, golden eye binding magic, overpower glare. He exclaimed as his eyes glowed gold. William's entire body then glowed gold, leaving him immobilized. Shit, William muttered. Brosnan then jumped into the air, his fist reeled back, ready to strike William. My overpower glare will remain in effect as long as you're in my line of vision, and with your allies occupied, there's no one who can save you. That's where you're wrong. The sudden sound of a voice surprised Brosnan. He was even more surprised as Kenos appeared in between him and William, bursting from under them. The solar mage did a mid-air front flip, kicking Brosnan with his heel, causing the armored general to plummet downwards. Luckily for him, Tantalus was there to catch him. Thanks, Brosnan said to his fellow shining general. No problem, he said back. A similar exchange of words occurred as Kenos landed next to William, the latter being freed from the paralysis. Thanks, I owe you one, William said. Don't mention it, Kenos said back. Tantalus looked up at the two Clover Kingdom mages. I wonder if I should use Demeter's Harvest. It's the strongest food magic spell in my arsenal, as it will drain all the mana in the area, but doing so will stop Brosnan and Lotus from casting any spells along with our enemies, so that's a no-go. Should we launch an attack against them? Kenos asked William as he pointed down at the Goldeneye and Dual Mages. Not for now. We need to think of a plan to take them out more efficiently. They're proving to be quite the problem, William replied, but then, he and Kenos looked up to see Yami and Lotus landed on a nearby branch. The two mages clashed blades over and over again, neither one letting up against the other. The two sides watched as they did so. I'm finishing this right now. Smoke magic, Lotus was beginning to say as he backed up a fair distance from his opponent, but was interrupted by the Black Bull's captain. Too slow. Dark magic. Dark cloaked dance of the eclipse. Yami exclaimed as he disappeared. Lotus stopped. Okay. I don't think I've seen this spell before. I wonder what it does. Funny you should ask, began a voice behind the smoke mage. He abruptly turned around to see Yami just a few inches away from him. It's a spell that lets me put an end to this fight. Dark magic. Dark cloaked gloomy dusk. He finished with an exclamation as darkness enveloped his katana and he slashed Lotus right in the chest, the close proximity of the attack also causing the smoke mage to lose his footing on the branch and begin plummeting down. That last spell, Gloomy Dusk, I remember it, that was the exact same spell that put a scar on my chest, and now he hit me with another one. Ah damn it, I'm losing too much blood, now I'm starting to fade out of consciousness, I guess I'll have to leave the fight to you two now, he thought as he kept falling. Tantalus was quite surprised to see anyone get such a hit on Lotus, but he wasn't as surprised as Brosnan. The Goldeneye mage watched the smoke mage fall like it was in slow motion. He couldn't believe what he was seeing, and who was responsible. Lotus. He screamed as he crouched down and jumped straight up, catching Lotus midair. He quickly noted his ally's injury. A slash to the chest, and by that dark mage no less. He then looked down at the dual mage. Tantalus. I'm on it, the giant exclaimed, raising his palm up as Brosnan landed on it. He set the injured mage down and looked at the dark mage. Yami Sukahiro, I'm going to kill you, he exclaimed as his grimoire flipped through pages, stopping on one. Golden Eye Magic. Sweeping Beam Cannon. His eyes glowed gold before they fired two beams that unified into one beam. It hit the far side of the tree and began quickly moving horizontally, straight for Yami. Shit, he muttered as he ran away from the beam, his grimoire flipping to a page, ready to cast a spell to counter the attack once enough distance was made. Captain Yami. Kenos exclaimed as he jumped towards the dark mage. While in the air, he looked at his ring. I burned through two more outlines. If I maintain the ring or a combo, I may not be able to pull off another mana charge attack, but I won't need it. I just need to get to the captain and cast Amaterasu's guard. Unfortunately for the solar mage, he was spotted by his earlier 1v1 enemy. You're not getting in the way. Giant magic. Titan blaster. Tantalus exclaimed, firing the magic bullet. Shit. Kenos cursed, crossing his arms as the attack hit him head on. He was shot into the tree. His auras protected him from further injury, but disappeared in the process. Kenos. Yami exclaimed as he stopped and watched the solar mage get hit into a tree, but by stopping, the dark mage had let the beam catch up to him. Once he finally noticed, it was too late. Ah! Yami let out a painful scream, but his instincts kicked in and he jumped up, evading the rest of the beam. As he landed, he kneeled down, holding his left arm. Kenos heard his captain call his name before screaming. He had never heard him scream like that before. It scared him, but then, branches began to appear, shielding their entire side from the enemy. Kenos, check on Yami, I'll cover you. He heard William call out. Right. The solar mage called back as he gathered his strength and jumped to the branch where Yami was. I'm coming, Captain. He arrived by the dark mage and saw him holding his left arm. Is it bad? He asked. But as he saw it, he almost wanted to puke. Yami's left arm was nearly cut off, connected by only a few lines of muscle and his arm bone. Blood was leaking from it. The dark mage was desperately trying to keep it from falling off. On the other side, Brosnan looked back down at Lotus. Golden Eye Recovery Magic. Healing Gaze, he said as Lotus began to glow gold. Tantalus, let's retreat. We've lost this battle, he said, not breaking eye contact with the smoke mage. Are you sure? What about our forces, and the other shining generals? Tantalus asked. They've made no attempt to try contacting us, meaning they were most likely subdued. There's no point in staying here with Lotus injured, the Golden Eye Mage replied. The dual mage sighed. Fine, we'll retreat, and I was really looking forward to some Clover Kingdom food. The giant's hammer disappeared as he walked out of Kaidan. Tactical retreat, he called out as he kept walking, all the way back to the Diamond Kingdom. William commanded his branches to fall as he ran to Kenos and Yami. How is he? Not good, my recovery spell won't work here, he needs to be treated by a high-level recovery mage, Kenos replied. I understand, William said as he commanded his branches to carry up his broom. He and Kenos carefully helped Yami onto it as they quickly flew to the capital. How are you feeling, Captain? Kenos asked. Should I use a spell to at least lessen the pain? I've been better, but you don't need to waste your mana, I'll be just. Ah. Yami was replying, but stopped as pain surged through him again. Hold on, we're almost at the capital, William told them as he took out his communication device, calling Julius. William, is something the matter? How is the battle going? Julius asked. The Diamond Kingdom has retreated, we are victorious, but we have a problem. Yami has been gravely injured. If he's not treated soon, it could be fatal. I'm taking him and Kenos to headquarters. Please have Owen on standby for when we arrive, William informed the time mage. Alright, I already sent marks on it. Owen is on his way, Julius said, his voice laced with worry and urgency as the transmission ended. The broom carrying the three then increased in speed. 7 minutes passed and they finally arrived at the capital, more specifically, Magic Knight HQ. William saw that the doors at the entrance were wide open, so he wasted no time landing and flew straight in, mentally being thankful that the inside of HQ was big enough to fly in. Only a few seconds of turning passed before they arrived at the door to Julius's office. They landed as Kenos quickly opened the door before helping Yami inside. He quickly noticed the Wizard King, Marks, and the gray-haired healer, Owen. Owen, it's been some time. It's good to see you too, Kenos, Owen greeted before his eyes fell on Yami. He walked over to him and checked his arm. He looked very concerned before turning to Julius. This is a high-level injury. I can't heal it by myself. Lord Julius, if you would, I'd like your assistance. The Wizard King wasted no time in nodding. It'd be my pleasure. Owen then took out his grimoire, but Julius didn't. Regardless, a blue orb appeared above his hand. Time recovery magic. Water recovery magic. Yami was then surrounded by a large orb of water and lifted into the air. A ring with Roman numerals was around it, like Saturn's ring. Combo spell. Chronoaqua restoration, they said together as Yami's arm began fixing itself, until it was brand new. The orb then disappeared as he softly landed on the ground. That feels a whole lot better. Thanks, I owe you 2-1, Yami as he moved his left arm in a windmill motion. Now that Yami has been treated, I can thank you both for your help in defending Kaidan. I'll be sending stars to both of your squads, Julius said to the two captains. There's something else that needs to be done. Kenos spoke up as he walked to Yami. He then put his head down. I'm really sorry, Captain. You only got injured because you were worried about me. If only I was able to move faster, or maybe get away from Tantalus' attack, you wouldn't have to go through that pain. Yami ruffled the Solar Mage's hair. Don't worry about it. I don't blame you at all. I should have been more careful. In fact, I'm proud of you. You held your own against a shining general in a one-on-one match. Julius stepped up. He's right. Don't let it get to you. Now, if you don't mind, I need to speak to everyone about something important. If you could exit the room and wait outside, I'd really appreciate that. Kenos put his head up and lightly smiled. All right, he said before exiting the room, but as he did, his smile disappeared, replaced by a look of anger as he walked to the wall across from the door and punched it. Damn you, Brosnan, you hurt the captain. I'm going to make you pay. One day, if we ever cross paths again, mark my words. He angrily thought as he clenched his fist. Hours passed and the sun was beginning to set on both the Clover Kingdom and the Diamond Kingdom. So Lotus, how are you feeling? Inside a large building within the Diamond Kingdom, Lotus was face to face with a man wearing a lab coat, wearing shades. I'm feeling just fine, Morris, the recovery mages said I should be okay, he replied. Morris smiled. That's good, and what about Brox, Lagus, and Yagos? I noticed they didn't come with you. Tantalus spoke up. He was standing to the side, next to Andreas and Mars. They were most likely captured. I knew relying on those old-timers would screw us over. The only old generation shining general that's worthy is Brosnan. The rest should make way for us of the new generation, Andreas scoffed. So, Morris, what's the next plan of action? Not sure right now. The attack on Kaidan was a bust, so for now, let's keep a low profile before we do anything else, he replied before he started to walk out of the room. He then stopped and turned around, looking at Lotus. Oh, and by the way, Lotus, I think Brosnan wanted to speak to you. Oh, okay then, I'll see you all around, Lotus said as he left, walking to Brosnan's room. As he arrived at the door, he knocked. Come in. The smoke mage entered and saw Brosnan, still in his armor. The golden eye mage on the other hand was happy to see him. Lotus, have you made a full recovery? Yeah, I'm all good, but I got a new scar. Tantalus told me you were healing me all the way to the Diamond Kingdom. Thanks, I owe you one, Brosnan, Lotus said. Lotus, what did I say about calling me Brosnan when we're not in combat? The armored general said as he laid a hand on his chest. Suddenly, a spot began to glow as the armor began disappearing. Once it was fully gone, he turned around to face Lotus, but it wasn't a he, but rather, a she. Before Lotus was a beautiful, curvaceous woman who was just a bit shorter than him. Her skin was a caramel brown. She had piercing golden eyes and medium long black hair. She wore a light coating of regal red armor over a long red dress, and around her neck was a pendant which she used to summon her armor. The woman put a hand on her hip. You know very well that Brosnan is my last name, or at least, my maiden name. Ever since the two of us got married, she walked over to Lotus as the two held each other and shared a kiss. You wouldn't believe how much you worried me when I saw Yami strike you. Next time you go into battle, don't worry me like that ever again. Lotus smiled. I promise, I'll never make you worry again, Anna. Chapter 48. The Cruel Hand of Fate. Hey there, readers, sorry I haven't been posting as often as I'd like to. School has been keeping me busy, but I'll try to get chapter 49 posted before the end of the weekend. With that out of the way, enjoy the newest chapter. CYA and happy Cinco de Mayo. Going a few hours back to when the sun was still up, Kenos was still waiting outside of Julius's office, waiting for Yami to come out. 15 minutes passed before it happened, as the door opened and the dark mage walked out, along with William. I better tell my squad to head back to base. They must still be in Kaidan. I'll see you around, Yami, Kenos, the World Tree Mage said as he walked down the hallway. Hey Captain Yami, should we head back to Kaidan? We did leave Asta, Finral, and Charmy there, Kenos asked. Nah, besides, even if we wanted to, our brooms are back at the base, Yami replied as the two walked down the hallway and out of HQ. So, what were you talking about inside of Julius's office? The Solar Mage asked again. Just talking about how we're going to reinforce Kaidan's defenses so what happened today doesn't happen again. I see, Kenos responded, glaring at Yami's left arm. The Dark Mage quickly noticed this and spoke up. Is something the matter? Huh, oh, it's just I'm wondering if your arm's okay, Kenos replied. Yami looked at him. Julius and Owen already fixed it up. It's good as new, he said. But even though I say that, I can read your key, something else is bothering you. It's just that when I saw Brosnan almost cut your arm off, it made me remember about what happened to Kyoto, the Solar Mage revealed. That friend of yours from the underwater temple, oh yeah, I guess I can understand, Yami said, remembering how Veto cut off his leg, in front of everyone. Wait, is it possible that we can bring Kyoto and his sister here? Maybe Julius and Owen can use Chronoaqua restoration, perhaps they can fix his foot and her throat, Kenos asked, his voice becoming ecstatic at the thought of helping his friends. I'm not too sure about that, Yami challenged. Julius and Owen's magic have their limits. If my arm was completely cut off, I doubt they would have been able to fix it. They'd have to recreate the muscles, bone, nerves, and blood, instead of merely fixing it. In the case of the two siblings, a good amount of hours have passed, so it's possible the nerves in Kyoto's foot are dead and will have to be recreated, the same as Kahono's voice box. It's not impossible to fix them though. The world is a large place, there's bound to be somebody who has the power to do so. Oh, I see, Kenos said at the end of the captain's rather long explanation. He clenched his fists tightly. There's nothing I can do. Just like before, I wasn't strong enough, I couldn't save Kyoto, and I couldn't save you, I still need to get stronger. The Solar Mage finished speaking, but his eyes then widened as he felt a hand on his head. That hand then painfully tightened around his skull and lifted him up, soon was looking straight into his captain's intimidating eyes, the familiar dark aura surrounding him. That's it, I'm getting sick of you talking like that. Nothing that happened those times were your fault, so stop saying that. You did the best you could while you were there and that's all I could ask for. You hear, the Dark Mage in a terrifying, albeit inspiring way. You'll never change if you talk crap about yourself. Don't do it again or I'll kill you, understand? I understand, Kenos replied quietly as Yami let go of him. Yami then took out a cigarette and lit it, letting it touch his lips before smoke came out. Good, although you are right about the part where you need to get stronger, you already created mana charge, so you're not so far off. Kenos smiled. Thanks, Captain. So, what are we going to do about the others that are in Kaidan? To this, Yami took out his communication device. Simple, I'll just call Finral, tell him we're here, and just have him teleport himself and the others here. The captain pushed a button, and a hologram of Finral appeared. Yo there. Captain Yami, where are you, Asta, Charmy, and I have nearly looked over all of Kaidan looking for you. Finral asked. Oh, a problem came up, so Kenos and I raced back to headquarters, Yami replied, not mentioning the injury with his arm. Now it was healed, there was no need to worry his squad members. The two of us are at the front of HQ, teleport here. On it, the spatial mage responded before the transmission ended. There we go, nice and easy, Yami said, Kenos silently nodding. Just 3 minutes passed before the familiar spatial portal appeared in front of the dark and solar mages, with the three black bulls coming from the other side. Asta, unable to raise his hand to greet his squadmates, merely jumped in the air ecstatically. Kenos. Captain Yami, he exclaimed, running to them. You seem pretty upbeat, kid, how'd the three of you do? Yami asked. We did really good. We got a lot of people to safety, and we even fought a diamond mage. I think he was one of those shining generals we saw earlier, Charmy replied with a tone just as excited as the swordsman. Good, the dark mage said before looking up at Finral, seeing him look a bit uneasy. Hey, is everything alright? Finral's face contorted into a quick nervous smile. Oh yeah, I'm just fine, don't worry, he replied before turning around, his face returning to its previous look. What the hell was I thinking? I hope Asta and Charmy don't tell anyone I picked a fight with the Golden Dawn. Wait. Don't panic Finral, you know what you said, Langris has always had a big ego, and this is how I'll knock it down a peg. Yami gave a small smile. Great, I'm proud of the four of you, it wasn't even 24 hours since you all went up against Veto, and you were still able to hold your own against an attack. Thanks a lot, Captain Yami, so are we heading back to base? Asta asked. Not yet, we have one more thing to do. Follow me, Yami replied as they followed him back into the building, walking down a hallway before making a turn and walking again. Asta caught up to the solar mage. Hey, Kenos. He turned his head to the swordsman. Yeah. I was just wondering, who did you and Captain Yami face off against when you split up from us? Asta asked curiously. Who did we face off against? Well, before any fighting happened, we met up with Captain William, then we encountered two new shining generals, as well as Lotus, Kenos replied. Asta raised a brow. Lotus. Yeah, that guy we fought in the dungeon some time ago, with Luck and Noel, the solar mage reminded him. The two five-leaf users thought back to their second mission, and their first time working together to fight a dangerous enemy. Oh, you mean that old-looking guy with the smoke magic? I guess he was able to get out of the dungeon before it collapsed, Asta said. Were Mars and Andreas there too? No, it was two that I never saw before, but one of them had a dual attribute, giant magic, and food magic, the other one had golden eye magic. Finral and Charmy were listening in on their young squadmate, but the latter only had her focus on one thing he said. Food magic, she screamed. Yami slowly turned his head to her. Keep it down, he said quietly, but just as intimidating as usual. Sorry, Captain, Charmy apologized before walking to Kenos. That general must be so lucky, having food magic, being able to make whatever meal he wanted out of thin air. Chami, you can make food out of thin air, or at least, your sheep cooks can, Kenos reminded her. As well as that, I don't think his magic makes food, it sorts of acts like magic as food, he was able to eat one of my spells to heal himself. Wow, imagine if I could get a magic attribute like that, cotton magic is cool, but that would be even cooler, Charmy said. His giant magic wasn't a walk in the park either, he was almost as tall as William's tree, the solar mage told them. And I had to fight him alone. We saw how large the tree was from afar, it must have been tough to fight someone like that by yourself, Finral said. And what about the third mage, the one with golden eye magic? Asta then asked. Those words caused Kenos to stop, quietly clenching his fists, but he quickly composed himself before anyone noticed. He was pretty tough, but I didn't fight him. Tough? Well, I doubt he was tough enough to hurt either you or Captain Yami, Asta said cheerfully. Kenos' expression fell as he looked down, and with Yami in front of them, they weren't able to see his face adopt the same look as his squad member. Kenos soon spoke up. Yeah, he was no match for us. Kenos, is everything okay? Charmy asked with concern. Yeah, I'm fine, I'm just bummed that we couldn't catch them, they escaped shortly after being defeated, he slightly lied. I understand, that feeling sucks, Yami added, assisting in the black-haired mage's white lie, understanding his want to not worry the others, but the dark mage didn't know that that wasn't the only thing going through the solar mage's head. Brosnan, I'm going to get my revenge on you. But how, if Captain William couldn't completely defeat him? What chance do I have? Maybe the key to shortening the gap would be to better my mana charge. That might not be easy though since I made the technique. I have no one to teach me how to improve it, so I guess I'll just have to do it through trial and error, Kenos thought to himself, but was snapped back to reality as Yami spoke up. And we're here, he said. They all looked and saw a rather wide door. Captain, that's just a door, Asta said. Yami slammed his palm into Asta's back. Of course I know that's a door. Did you just become an idiot or something? The important thing is what's behind the door. Right, sorry, the magicless mage apologized. Now let's head inside, Yami said as he opened the door, immediately revealing a familiar figure, at least, to Kenos. Owen, he said before realizing something as they all walked inside. Oh yeah, this is your office, I've only been here a handful of times. That's right, Although it would make sense, my most regular visitors are injured magic knights, Owen said to him as he got up from the chair he was sitting on and started walking to them. So, seeing that your frequent visitors are your patients, I assume the reason we're here is for Asta. Kenos asked. The man nodded. Correct. During the talk I had with Yami, William, Marx, and Julius, Yami told me that one of his squad members had both his arms broken, and that I should check on him. He turned to the swordsman, looking down at his slung arms, putting his hand on his chin. Can you really fix my arms? Asta asked with a bit of uncertainty. Of course he can. Owen's the greatest healer this kingdom has ever known, Kenos told him. The water mage chuckled. I wouldn't call myself the greatest. Even after I fix his arms, it'll still have to stay in the brace. That'll be just fine, Yami said before turning to the spatial mage. Finral, make a portal for us to get back to the base. You'll stay here and wait for Owen to fix Asta's arms. Once he's done, the two of you will come back. Okay. Finral responded as he formed a portal. We'll see you two later, Kenos said as he walked in. I'll throw a celebratory feast, Charmy added as she too walked in. Thanks a bunch for this, Owen, it seems I owe you twice now, Yami finished as he walked in last, the portal closing behind him. Finral scratched the back of his head. I'll just be outside, I wouldn't want to interrupt you during your work. Thank you. Based on the visual severity of the injury, I don't think it should take any more than 20 minutes. Alright, good luck, the spatial mage spoke his last words before leaving the room, heading outside of the building to wait. Owen walked over into a chair and lifted it up, bringing it a few feet across from where his chair was. Alright then, Asta, please sit here and get comfortable. As I said, this will take some time. He sat down on his own chair. The magicless mage did as he was told. Okay, I'm ready. Owen smiled as his grimoire came up and flipped to a page. Good, water recovery magic. Quail operation, he said as jellyfish appeared around the two. The jellyfishes placed their tentacles on Asta's arms. This is a recovery spell. How exactly does it work? Asta asked. The tentacles specifically pinpoint the minute areas of injury where the most damage occurred. The spell will then heal those points. That does put it a good few steps above most recovery spells, Owen explained. Cool, the swordsman stated as Owen placed his hand on his chin. Interesting, this is something I've never seen before. Tell me, how exactly did you obtain this injury? During a mission to the underwater temple, more specifically by a mage with the Eye of the Midnight Sun, Asta replied. The Eye of the Midnight Sun, I wonder sometimes, what exactly are they trying to achieve? From what I heard from their leader, they want to usurp the current system in the kingdom, no matter what they have to do to get it. The swordsman's expression fell as he thought of Fugalian. They are a powerful foe, but I know we'll defeat them, Owen told him with a small smile as the two sat in silence for a few minutes. Now, let's see how your arm is, he was beginning to say, but stopped as his eyes widened. That look put uncertainty in Asta's eyes. Owen, is something the matter? Asta, I have some bad news. I wonder how things are going inside. Finral wondered aloud. He was sitting on a bench not too far from the building. He took out a magic item and checked the time. 18 minutes, that's not too bad, he should almost be done. The spatial mage then got up. I could head in now, that way Asta won't have to walk all the way outside. Once he exits Owen's office, we can head directly to the hideout. Finral then walked inside, remembering the path Yami showed them earlier. He arrived a few feet away from the spot, quickly noticing the door was still opened. He smiled, soon expecting to hear Asta screaming at the top of his lungs from the happiness of getting to use his arms again, but as he got closer, he heard the magicless mage's voice, but it was nowhere near happy. Owen, is something the matter? Upon hearing those words being spoken with that tone of voice, Finral pressed his back against the wall, not wanting to be seen. Owen sighed. Asta, I have some bad news. The water mage then began to explain what that news was. As Asta heard it, his eyes widened in disbelief. Outside of the room, Finral heard him too, and he merely grit his teeth as a shadow covered his eyes, but it didn't last long as he formed a portal and walked into it, not wanting Asta to come out finding someone listening in. The other side of the portal appeared right at the entrance of headquarters. Finral stepped out of it, removing any look of sadness or frustration, replacing it with a casual look. About 3 minutes passed before Finral noticed Asta coming down the hall. To his complete surprise, the swordsman's face was totally normal. In fact, he had a small smile on his face. Hey Finral, have you been waiting at the entrance the whole time? He asked. Yeah, the spatial mage lied before quickly making a portal. We should head back now, don't want to worry the others. Right, Asta said back with one of his signature grins as the two walked in. The two mages quickly stepped out of the other side, arriving at Black Bull's HQ, but they were a bit surprised to see a huge grill not too far out in front of them, and by the grill were the others, who turned to face the two immediately as they arrived. You're back, they all excitedly exclaimed, with Magna and Luck being the only ones to run towards the two. The flame and lightning mages slung their arms around the swordsman. Captain Yami, Charmy, and Keno's told us about your fights against the Diamond Kingdom. I wish I could have been there, it must have been so exciting. Luck cheered. They also told us about your arms. That's a big relief, although it's quite a bummer you'll have to keep them slung regardless, but what are you gonna do? Magna added. Asta's expression quickly fell, but it wasn't noticed by the others, they were just too excited. Why yeah, the magicless mage told them. Yami then coughed, calling their attention. Listen up you knuckleheads, we have a lot to celebrate tonight. I already told you I was proud of your fight against Veto, but that isn't everything. A wide grin then creased his face. I'm happy to inform you all that we're officially out of the negative star count. There was a few seconds of silence, but then realization dawned on the Black Bulls and they too grinned. All right. They cheered together. I almost forgot about the whole star thing to be honest, Ghosh stated. What do you honestly remember that doesn't have to do with your sister? Charmy asked, giving the mirror mage a comedic judgmental glare. Shut up, you damn glutton. He exclaimed. Finral crossed his arms. I guess we've really done well this year, all those missions we've been on have really paid off. Yami nodded. And it helps that Julius gave us 15 stars for our last mission. Keno smiled as well, but then realized something. Even though it's good that we've left the negative star count, but the other squads are still ahead of us by large amounts. Gordon then wrote something. Noel bent down to read it. Even if the other squads are ahead of us, all we need to do is just keep doing what we're doing. I like that mindset. It's been working for us anyway, Vanessa stated. Gray then shyly raised her hand. Yami turned to her. Yeah, something the matter. She put her hand down and opened her mouth. You Captain, YUT told us why we were celebrating, but could why you tell us how? How are we celebrating? I'm so glad you asked, it's the whole reason we have this huge grill here anyways, Yami replied as he walked over and pulled out a large bag. Upon opening it, his subordinates all gathered to see what it was, and as they did, their eyes widened in collective wonder. Meat. You got that right. I happen to know a guy who knows a guy who's a butcher. We gambled a few weeks ago and I won. But the bastard didn't have any money. Instead, he agreed to hook me up with loads of meat whenever I asked. Stopped there right after getting back here with Finral's portal, the Dark Mage explained. There's so much meat here, you'll all be able to eat to your heart's content and then some. Captain, please let me cook it. Charmy begged, childishly jumping into the air and latching yourself onto Yami's leg. Well duh, of course you're cooking it. No one here in their right mind would dare try taking that job away from you, he told her. Damn right about that, she took out her grimoire. Cotton creation magic. Sheep cooks. She exclaimed, calling upon the assistants as they made quick work cleaning and applying seasonings to the meat. Magna, I'll need some fire to start the grill. You can count on me, Miss Chef. Magna exclaimed as a fireball formed in his hand. He then tossed it under the steel net of the grill, letting it burn brightly. Charmy and the sheep wasted no time placing the meat on various parts of the grill. About 10 minutes passed before the rich aroma of meat and seasonings entered their nostrils, causing their mouths to drool near uncontrollably. Okay. The meat's done, here are some skewers, everyone enjoy. The Cotton Mage exclaimed. Upon being handed a skewer, the Black Bulls dug into the succulent pieces of meat before them. Keno's took a big bite out of his. Damn, after two big fights not even 24 hours apart from each other, it feels good to have a meal like this, especially since it tastes amazing. So true, this meat is off the hook. Magna exclaimed with content. Noelle took a bite of her meat, but glanced at the injured swordsman beside her. Her cheeks bloomed a light red. Hey Asta. I understand that it must be hard to eat without the use of both of your arms, so consider yourself lucky that royalty is willing to feed, she began saying as she fully turned to him. Oh hey Asta, you look like you need some help. Here, Keno said, interrupting the water mage's statement. The solar mage pointed a skewer of meat at Asta's face. Thanks a lot, I owe you. I was super excited to eat this, but remembered I couldn't. Good thing you showed up or that would have been a bummer, Asta said back as he gratefully took a bite. Noelle's face turned beet red with comedic anger. She pointed her wand at the two. Damn it, she exclaimed, blasting water. Keno's quickly noticed it. Duck, he exclaimed, the two teens lowering their bodies as a strong burst of water flew right over them. The solar mage turned around to the water's origin and of course, saw Noelle, but a dark blue aura surrounded her as she glared at the two boys, namely him. Keno's, she yelled, running at him. What did I do? He exclaimed, quickly running away. She followed him in circles. Holy crap, girls can be really crazy sometimes. Take this, she exclaimed, firing a single bullet. That's for feeding Asta. I don't get it, that's what friends do. He quickly ducked, letting the bullet of water find a new target. Unfortunately for them both, that target just happened to be Yami. What the hell, you two, watching your chase is fun enough for me, don't get me involved, he said, his intimidating aura and glare present. Keno's and Noelle gulped before bowing their upper halves. Sorry, Captain, they apologized in unison. The aura disappeared and his glare softened. All right then, I accept your apology, but to make it up to me, you'll do some party tricks. In fact, you'll all do party tricks. Who's first? We're up first. Luck replied, slinging his arm around Magna. What do you mean? I don't want to do a trick with you, the flame mage protested. Oh come on, I'll need your help, the lightning mage told him. He sighed. Fine, I'll help you. Perfect, Luck said as the two of them walked to an open space for everyone to see. He extended his hand to his partner. Let's shake, as a way for me to thank you for agreeing to help me. Oh, okay then. Magna was beginning to say, but as their hands made contact, he was being immediately electrocuted. Ha, that was easy, man, you're gullible. Luck laughed. Luke, yo son u off ff quadruple A, Magna was about to curse, but was interrupted once again. Off you go, Luck exclaimed, spinning him. Behold our trick, the spinning firecracker. Magna was spinning violently, surrounded by electricity, right into a tree. He slammed into it, stopping his rotation. Ha, that hilarious. Yami laughed. I think we should see if he's okay before we start laughing, Keno said as he jogged over to Magna, helping him up. You okay? Yeah, I'm going to make Luck pay so bad, but, after the world stopped spinning, he replied. I think I'll go next, Finral said as he stood in front of everyone before taking out his grimoire. Spatial magic. Fallen Angel's Gate. The two portals formed, one in front of his chest, the other behind his head. He merely punched the first portal as his fist came out of the second portal, gently punching him in the head. Unlike the last one, Yami wasn't impressed. That can't be all. No offense, but that was quite lackluster. Try doing something better. Okay, let's try this. Finral cast the spell again, but this time, there was a portal on the ground, and one up high in the air. Here I go. He walked a few inches and jumped into the portal, immediately coming out of the aerial portal. He was falling at a pretty fast speed, but just as he was a few feet from hitting the ground, he formed another portal, appearing about 3 feet to the right of where he was about to land, still up in the air. He repeated this for a few minutes, appearing in random places while midair before he decided to land. The dark mage gave him a thumbs up. Now that's better. What about you, Vanessa, you want to go? I'll give it a try, but I'm not too good at tricks, she replied as she walked over and stood before everyone. Okay, my turn, but first, she began as the thread mage walked over to her battle-hungry squadmate and started circling around him, as if she was inspecting him. What exactly are you doing? Luck asked. Oh, you'll see, she replied, taking out her grimoire. Thread magic. Dancing doll, she said as she pulled on her bundle of thread, forcing the lightning mage to raise his hands. I just used that little inspection as a way to set some threads for this spell. Ha, you're the unwilling assistant of another person's party trick, doesn't feel too good does it? Magna laughed, finally regaining his coordination. Vanessa made Luck walk over to her and swing his arms back and forth, for the sake of the fact that it was to be a party trick. Vanessa matched the movements she made Luck do. Hey, I'm starting to get used to this. Vanessa, can you make me kick Magna? Luck asked. No, the thread mage replied immediately as she dropped the spell, removing her control of Luck's action. Awesome work, now you up. Me, Charmy exclaimed. The cotton mage grabbed multiple skewers of meat and stood where Vanessa was as the scarlet-clad witch left to join the others. Prepare to be amazed, my friends. She threw 4 skewers into the air before forming cotton on her back in the shape of a fan as she balanced herself on one foot. The skewers in the air neatly fell into her cotton fan. I give you, the meat peacock. Everyone but Asta clapped as Yami spoke up. Okay then, who's next? I guess giving Gordon a try wouldn't be too bad. The dark mage turned around to look at the poison mage, but was taken aback by the ecstatic, albeit creepy smile on his face. Quote. On second thought, how about Gauche? Sorry, Gordon. The mute's smile fell and he wrote something on his notebook, but this time, it was big enough for everyone to see it from where they were. I understand. Kenos walked over to his squadmate and slung his arm around his shoulder, looking at him understandingly. Don't worry about them, Gordon. If you want, you can come over to my room sometime and show me your trick. Gordon merely nodded, putting a smile on Keno's face as Gauche stood in front of everyone. He began forming multiple mirrors in groups of various numbers. Alright, here's my trick. The familiar purple beam shot out of all the mirrors simultaneously, infinitely reflecting to the other mirrors in their respective groups before it was visible that the beam of each group formed different geometric shapes. Ooh, I've never seen you use your magic like that before, Vanessa spoke up. It's actually one of the first things I learned since these were the first shapes Marie was able to draw when she was an adorable little toddler, Gauche replied as blood ran down his nose. Of course his party trick has to revolve around his sister, everyone thought in unison. Yami then turned his attention to the newest revealed member of the squad. Gray, show us what you can do. The transformation mage was hesitant, but shyly walked over to Gauche. The mirror mage looked down at her. I know you're shy pretty much all the time, but don't overthink this, it's just a trick, you'll define. Gray looked at him with slight shock as he walked away. Her face was beet red as usual, but whether it was out of general embarrassment or something else, she wasn't sure. Here I go. She exclaimed as a puff of smoke appeared. Once it dispersed, her squadmates saw a familiar sight. Isn't that the transformation you used to be in all the time? Keno stated the obvious as he looked at the bulky man. True, but let's be honest, with what we know about her, it's a miracle she didn't even refuse to try, Yami countered. Gray transformed back and shyly bowed. Thank you very much. She ran back and buried her face in Gosha's back. Oddly enough, the mirror mage didn't seem to mind her action, his face remained indifferent. That wasn't too bad, but I know the next one will be great, isn't that right, Noel? Yami then stated, all eyes shifting to the royal. I don't know, Captain, my magic control still isn't where I'd like it. I think I should sit this one out, the water mage said. Yami slowly walked over to her and placed his hand on her head tightly, but didn't lift her up. His face looked like it had murderous intent. Is that so, Missy? Well, apparently, you had enough control to aim a water ball at Keno's and let it hit me. Don't forget what I said earlier, you don't have a choice in the matter. Why yes, I understand. She walked up and stood in front of everyone. You got this, Noel. Asta cheered. The water mage took a slow and deep breath. Okay, concentrate, blast out just a tiny amount of water from my wand, she thought as she was beginning to do it. She raised her trusty weapon in front of her face and watched as a small orb of water appeared on the tip of her wand. Here I go, don't mess this up. Noelle mentally told herself as she began moving her wand around, the orb of water turning into a string-like stream as she did so. She quickly began changing her movements and started doing what looked like ribbon dancing. And, done, she finished, striking a random pose at the end. Claps followed. Can't say I was expecting that, Yami said. Noelle panted a bit before she responded. Well, I am royalty. As such, we are taught how to dance from an early age. The solar mage raised his hand. I suppose I'm up next. He walked over to where the water mage was a few seconds ago. Keno's extended both of his hands out as orange globes appeared on them. I've got the perfect idea for my trick. Normally, this would act as my source of light, but it seems I have another use for it, he thought as the globes floated from his hands and into the air. He made more globes and the process repeated until 20 of them were above everyone's heads, its soft light providing a contrast to the bright flame. Wow, so pretty, Charmy commented. Keno's didn't respond, as it took a decent amount of magic control. He opened and clenched his fists multiple times, which lowered and heightened the brightness of the orbs. Once his trick was over, he softly clapped his hands as the globes vanished, leaving a faint trace of light for a few seconds. Yami whistled. Damn, that was some trick. Yo, you're the last one up, kid, but with your arms like they are for the time being, you don't have to do one if you don't want to. Asta jumped into the air before running to stand in front of everyone. No way. Everyone showed such cool tricks. I can't just watch, I have to show you what I can do. The swordsman then began rapidly squatting. The other's sweat dropped. I don't mean to be rude, Asta, but I don't think that's a trick, it's just you exercising, Finral said. True, but it's the speed I'm going at that's important. Can anyone do it like I can? Asta replied as he continued, but stopped once he felt a familiar weight on his head. He looked up. Nero. The anti-bird looked back down at him before pecking furiously on his head. Ah, damn it, Nero. The magicless mage screamed, but with his arms slung, he was unable to swat the bird away. Everyone laughed as Nero flew off of Asta's head and chose to land on Gordon's shoulder. Magnus spoke up. It seems that Nero had a party trick to show too. He then directed his attention to Asta. But it's a bit of a bummer for you, rookie. Too bad your arms will be in a sling for a little while, or you could have done a trick with your swords. Upon hearing the flame mage's words, Asta's eyes suddenly widened, but they returned to normal quickly. He then started walking towards the hideout. Hey Asta, where are you going? Noel asked. I'm a bit exhausted from everything that's happened today. I'll call it quits for the night, he replied as he walked inside, thankfully with the doors already open. Despite his response, Noel knew something was wrong. That's strange, it's not too late into the night, it's not like Asta to get so tired all of a sudden. Something's fishy, Yami added. When he said that, I read his key, he's definitely hiding something from us, but I wonder what. I know why. All eyes turned to Finral as he quietly spoke those words, his head was down. What are you talking about? Keno's asked. The spatial mage raised his head up, seeing the faces of his squadmates. I know why he feels so under the weather, it's because of his arms. His arms. But I don't get it, didn't that Owen guy say he was able to fix his arms, but they had to stay in the sling for a little while? Luck asked. Wrong, Owen did say that they had to stay in a sling for a few days, but that was only if he could fix Asta's arms in the first place, Finral clarified. I'm confused, didn't he do that at headquarters? Charmy asked. Not exactly. When Owen tried to heal his arms, he said that he had bad news, Finral recalled somberly. And that news was, "Don't just leave us hanging," Yami told him. Finral bit the inside of his cheek before continuing. The damage Veto inflicted on Asta's arms was very severe. Owen told him that the majority of bones in his arms were nearly shattered, with some bones being full-on disintegrated. Those words shocked everyone present. Not a single face remained indifferent, even for people like Luck or Gauche. Keno spoke up. S shattered, D disintegrated. Finral sadly nodded. And it's not just that. Since Veto was using his mythical beast magic when he crushed Asta's arms, Owen said that he detected a curse on them too. A curse, Noel repeated. Does that mean the magic Veto was using was forbidden magic? It appears so, Finral replied. Kenos couldn't believe what he was hearing. If parts of his arms were disintegrated, then I doubt Chronoaqua restoration can fix those parts, but what about the shattered parts? Perhaps they can fix it. Or maybe, he began thinking. There's something I can do. All eyes then shifted to him. What could you do? Gauche asked, though his tone obviously revealed his remaining shock. I could try Mana Charge. Mana Charge. Everyone but Magna, Luck, and Yami asked. It's a technique I created when I was fighting Veto by myself. I gather neutral mana around me to boost my spells. Perhaps I can use it with my recovery spell. It must be able to do something. It just has. Kenos was explaining, but Finral raised a hand, stopping him. It's a possibility, but is the spell capable of undoing curses? Finral asked. Curses? No. Not to my knowledge, the Solar Mage reluctantly answered. So that means there's nothing we can do. I'm afraid so. Owen knew that too. That's why he said that Asta could never use his arms again. Those last words felt like a punch in the gut for the Black Bulls. Kenos fell to his knees and looked at the ground. Again, another time I wasn't strong enough to help someone. We were all there when Veto did it. I was there, but I couldn't do anything. Don't blame yourself, Vanessa told him, hiding her clenched fist. When Veto crushed Asta's arms, you were the first to react. It's because of you that I could get him out of there. But now, he can't even lift his sword or do anything else with his arms for that matter. Life was already hard for the rookie seeing that he had no magic, but now fate had to throw him something like this. Damn, that's just cruel, Magna said. And what about his dream, the one about being the Wizard King? Won't that come to an end too? Charmy mentioned. Kenos quickly stood up. I can't believe Asta hid this from us. He put on a brave face to not make us worry, but that isn't something he should keep to himself. He turned and started running into the hideout. I'm going to drag him from his bed and bring him here. He has to know that we'll be here for him. He disappeared into the building. What about you, Finral? Why didn't you tell us this sooner? Yami asked. Asta doesn't know that I know. I just happened to overhear Owen telling him that, but it isn't my problem to tell with Asta around, and I knew this would be sensitive for him, so I kept my mouth shut, he replied. Vanessa walked over and placed a hand on his shoulder. We know you meant well, but what Keno said was right. Asta should know we'll be there for him. Hey, everyone, we have a problem. Everyone turned to see Kenos running towards them. What is it? Noel asked. It's Asta. He's not in his room. What? After seeing that he wasn't in his room, I used my Godspeed combo to search all the places in the hideout he could, but he isn't anywhere. He must have gone back outside shortly after going in. We were all talking, so it's possible we didn't notice him, Finral deduced. Then that means he's out there. But where? Noel wondered. Kenos walked alongside the trees, but as he did, he heard some decent sounding rustling. The Solar Mage didn't feel any wind, which only meant one thing. Hey, I think I know where he is. Asta, I have some bad news. You can never use your arms again. Never again. Asta nonchalantly repeated Owen's words. The magicless mage sat on a rock, in the middle of a clearing in the trees. He looked up at the moon, completely alone. A few yards away, the others were hiding behind trees, looking at their squadmate as he sat in solitude. Nice work finding him so quickly, Kenos, Yami whispered. I'm just lucky the leaves rustled when he passed by them, or else I wouldn't know which way to go, the Solar Mage said back. Should we go up to him? Charmy asked. No, he needs this moment to himself. Once he decides to come back, then we can talk to him, Vanessa replied. I can't use my swords ever again, which means I can't fight to be the Wizard King. They quieted down upon hearing Asta speak again. And what about Yuno? He was so worried when he saw my injury, but would that mean he won by default? He's going to be the Wizard King, just like that, he continued. And what about the other Black Bulls? I know they won't kick me out of the squad, but now I'm of no use to them. Should I just leave? The mages all widened their eyes at the thought of losing Asta. No way, we'd never let you leave. You're a valuable member of this squad, they all thought. So many bad thoughts, so many conflicting feelings. He stood up and looked at the sky. No way, I'm not going to quit. He screamed at the top of his lungs. This isn't the time to feel bad about yourself. If fate wants to screw with me, then I'll screw with fate right back. I swear, I'll find a way to fix my arms, or at least find a way to fight again. I won't lose to the Eye of the Midnight Sun, or to you know either, I'll beat them all. The black bulls were certainly shocked by Asta's sudden exclamation, but unlike before, smiles were beginning to form on their faces. I remember, back at Hage, when I fought that Revchi guy to save Yuno, I nearly fell into despair, but just like what Keno said, I can't let despair take me, I'll never let that happen again. What a relief, the others thought. Yami quietly stood up. Come on, let's go, we don't want the kid to know we were listening in on him, he whispered. The others nodded as they silently stood up and walked back to the base, glad that their magicless squadmate, despite the situation he was in, had not lost his enthusiasm and his steadfast never give up attitude. The next morning came as Asta walked out of his room. He thought back to the previous night. When he came back from his self-talk, he saw that nobody was outside, so he walked inside the hideout and arrived just in time to see them all heading to their rooms. I wonder what was up with them. It was still early. Did they just head to their rooms to do something else? He wondered aloud as he arrived at the main hall, but noticed that only Yami was present. He was reading a newspaper. Good morning, Captain, where is everybody? The magicless mage asked. They all head out, Yami plainly replied. I see, Asta said. He walked out of the area and began making his way through a different hallway, wondering what to do. Hey there, Kenos. Asta turned his head at the sound of the solar mage's name being called. He saw that outside a window, Noel and Finral were standing together, with the aforementioned Kenos joining them. Hey, you two look happy, Kenos said. Why wouldn't we be? I'm just happy that Asta is doing okay. With what happened to his arms, I was really worried, but his declaration last night put me at ease, Finral replied. Asta's eyes widened. They know. So, I'm guessing that the others have all moved out too. Noel asked. The solar mage nodded. That's right. Magna and Luck head out to search dungeons. Gordon and Gauche are visiting the royal library at the capital. Charmy and Gray went into the woods to find some magical herbs. As for Vanessa, I'm not too sure where she went, but I know wherever she went, she's doing what the rest of us are doing, finding a way to fix Asta's arms. Asta's eyes widened once more. They're trying to find a way to fix my arms too. We can't fail. Asta is a member of our squad, but he's more than that. He's a part of our family. He's the one who brought out the best in all of us. He's always the first one ready to help someone, so it's our turn to help him, Kenos said. The water and spatial mages nodded. The latter spoke up. I think I know a place we could visit. Let's get moving, he said as he formed a portal. The three walked into it before it closed. The magicless mage didn't say another word, a shadow covering his face as he walked back into the main area, passing by Yami as he made his way outside. He then looked up into the sky as Nero conveniently landed on his head. You know something, Nero? I was never blessed with magic, the thing that I thought would make my dream come true. For years it bugged me to no end, but, he began before tears began to stream down his face. Quote. I'm glad that I was blessed with great friends, I'll take that over magic any day, he cried. Meanwhile, on the other side of Finral's portal, he, Kenos, and Noel arrived in front of a house. Where are we, and what is this place? Noel asked. You'll see, we're about to get help from some familiar faces, Finral replied as he walked forward and opened the door, immediately causing Noel and Kenos' eyes to widen. In front of them were the Diamond Kingdom fugitives, Fanzel, Dominant, and Mariella. They were all sitting at a table, but were just as surprised once the door opened to reveal the trio of magic knights. Finral wasted no time getting to the point. We need your help. Miles away from the Black Bull's base, within a vast forest, Vanessa stood in front of a large gate. It looked old, with vines growing around it, but the Thread Mage knew that it was nearly impenetrable. The Witch's Forest. I never thought I'd come back here, she said before looking up. Hey, the greatest genius since the founding of witches has returned, so open the gate. Not even 10 seconds passed before the gate opened. Vanessa took a deep breath before walking in as the gate closed behind her. She kept walking forward down a one-way hallway, but stopped once she arrived in front of a high platform, with a person standing on top of the platform. It was a woman. She was dressed in a light green dress. She wore a light green witch hat, but with her back turned, her face was hidden. The Queen of Witches, you look well. So, how have you been, Your Majesty? Vanessa asked sarcastically. Your Majesty. The Queen said before she turned around, revealing a hair color identical to Vanessa's, as well as wearing some kind of makeup that looked like black drops going down her eyes. Is that any way to greet your mother? Chapter 49. Finding a solution. Hey, readers, sorry this one was posted later than I planned. Once next month rolls around and school is close to finishing, I'll be able to post more often. I'm really excited to post the debut of Kenos, Angel, but to do so, I need to post more, so with that out of the way, enjoy the chapter. CYA. Finral, Kenos, Noel. Fanzel said as he got up from his chair. Finral wasted no time getting to the point. We need your help. Kenos and Noel turned to the spatial mage. Wait a minute, how did you know to come here? The latter asked. Finral turned to her. When we helped them that one time before going to the underwater temple, they gave Asta a map revealing the whereabouts of their home. During my free time, I quickly flew over here and marked the spots so I could teleport here later. Keno's perked up. Oh yeah, I remember. They did give us a map. So much has been going on these past few days, it must have slipped my mind. Domina then got up too. Well, regardless, it's good to see you all again. What exactly do you need help with? The trio of Black Bulls then began explaining their problem, beginning at their mission to the underwater temple, and ending with the current unfortunate fate of the swordsman. He can never use his arms again. Mariella repeated the last sentence told to them. Some worry was in her voice, which wasn't something that was heard often, but nobody paid it any mind as they knew how much Asta's example meant to her. That's bad. Without magic, things are already hard for him, but now his arms. Damn, but knowing Asta, I assume he isn't giving up because of this. Fanzel added, wondering about his student. Finral was happy to nod. That's right, and we couldn't be any more happy that he's not taking it too hard, but as for why I decided to come here, it was for Dominant. Domina softly gasped. Me. The spatial mage nodded. Yes, you were a well-known merchant in the black market. I was just wondering if you happened to have a magic item or some other thing that can undo curses. The vortex mage held her hips and closed her eyes, thinking, but she then sighed. I'm sorry, but there's nothing in my arsenal that is capable of undoing curses. She looked up and saw their faces change into worry, so she quickly waved her hands around. Wait just a moment. Sure, there's nothing I can do, but, she continued with a sad sigh. There's someone I know who can, the Queen of Witches who resides in the Witches' Forest. Witches' Forest. It's the home of the witches, where each of them is born, where? I was born, under the Queen's rule. None are to leave the forest to start a new life outside of it. Those that do are outcasted and can never return. I, of course, am one of those outcasted after leaving to marry Zell and live in the Diamond Kingdom with him, Domina explained. The Queen's magic is very powerful. During my time before leaving the forest, I heard that her magic was on par with even your Wizard King. On the same level as Julius, then she'll be perfect, Keno said. A thought then came to Finral's head. Hey, wait a minute, Vanessa's a witch too if I'm not mistaken. I wonder if she thought of going to the Queen before we did. He voiced. Those words made Domina's eyes widen. What? She went back. Oh no. What's the matter? Noelle asked with concern. If Vanessa's witch and she went there, wouldn't they just kick her out since she's an outcast? No, normally, outcasted witches who return to the forest are to be executed, unless the Queen personally pardons her, but that isn't the case with Vanessa, Domina replied. She's a very special witch to the Queen, even from birth. She wasn't like the rest of us. While we were allowed to leave the forest and return back, Vanessa was confined to a singular room in the Queen's palace. None of us were permitted to interact with her. But then, a few years back, the Queen had a scuffle with a mage, and Vanessa escaped with him. You must be talking about Captain Yami. That would explain how she's on the squad, Keno's figured out. That may be true, but regardless, if Vanessa did go back, she might never return. The eyes of the three magic knights widened in shock. Noelle stepped up. Then we have to go there, for both Asta and Vanessa. Hold up, we're coming too. You don't actually know where the witch's forest is, so I'll guide you, Domina said confidently. Keno's looked worried. But, you're an outcast, won't it be dangerous? It will, but I owe Asta for helping us. I'll be damned if I don't come with you. Besides, the danger will only come if we're spotted. If we can get there, help Asta and free Vanessa without the Queen aware of my presence, I'll be just fine, she replied. I'm coming too, Fanzel added. I owe Asta as well, plus, he's my former student. Count me in. If Fanzel and Dominant are going to this forest, I am too, Mariella finished. Kenos, Noelle, and Finral all smiled. Then what are we waiting for? Let's get a move on. 995.996, 0.997, 0.998, 0.999, 0.1000. The swordsman was outside, counting as he did squats, slowly lowering himself down every time. Damn, that was intense. It's been a while since I've done so many squats at a time. Normally I'd just do 500 and call it a day. But with my arms out of commission, I need to work my legs more. Until I can find a way to fix my arms, this will be my new way of fighting, Asta said to himself, imagining how he'd look with legs more jacked than they already were. Nero then landed on his head. He looked up with a smile. Hey there, Nero, I was wondering where you went. Did you come here to see my workout? Too bad you aren't heavier. Then you could have helped me by making my workouts more intense, but then again, you're just a bird, not a human. Asta went back to squatting, not noticing the bird's odd look of shock, but then his face changed back into its normal, deadpan expression. After I'm done with these squats, I should ask Captain Yami if he knows some more leg training. Something tells me it can prove pretty use, he was saying, but he was cut short as a strong wind swirled around him and began lifting him up. Damn it, what's going on? Asta exclaimed as he tried to escape but to no avail. The anti-bird got off his head and watched his aimless effort. It's too late for me to take out a sword since it takes a bit longer now. I have to grip it with my teeth, he thought, believing he was in danger, but that worry soon faded as he landed on a broom and a familiar voice spoke. Must you squirm so much, Dirksta? Huh, he said. He turned to the side to find the origin. Noelle, you're on a broom, but whose? He looked at who was in front of her, his eyes widened. Dominant, Mariella. Hey there, Asta, you look well, Domina cheerfully greeted. Hello, the ice mage greeted, but nowhere near as chipper as the previous female. I'm fine, Asta, good to see you again. The swordsman turned the other way to see Fanzel, riding behind Finral. Old man Zell, wait, who am I flying with? He looked directly forward, seeing the solar mage. Oh, Kenos. After the 3 black bulls and the 3 diamond fugitives affirmed their plan to their magicless friend, Finral teleported them all into the base, without Yami's knowledge. Of course, the 3 of them got their brooms and were teleported back outside and flew into the air. So. Why are you 3 exactly here, and where exactly are we? Asta was about to ask, but was stopped as the 3 brooms zoomed forward. It remained at that fast pace for 30 seconds before slowing down. During that time, the 3 brooms gained some distance from each other. Hey Kenos, where are we going? Asta asked. Where are we going? Well, we're going to a place. To fix your arms, Kenos slowly replied as he exposed the fact that they knew about his problem. So. You knew? The swordsman asked again. There was no direct eye contact between the 2 5-leaf users. Yeah, Kenos replied, never once moving his head. Finral heard Owen tell it to you at the capital. And then, we all overheard what you said to yourself last night. I'm sorry, I know this is a sensitive topic for you and that you'd rather have us find out of your own volition, it's just, we were worried too. The solar mage finished his statement and awaited the magicless mage's answer. The fact that he couldn't see his face only added to the tension, but then, Asta opened his mouth to reply. Quote. Thank you. For the first time, Kenos turned to face Asta. He could see a tear falling down his face, but he was smiling. I bet I was acting quite out of character last night. It must have been pretty easy to tell that something was wrong. I'm sorry too, for not telling you all right away. It was just that, despite what I said about not giving up, I was still scared. I didn't want to believe that it could have been over for me, but then I heard what you told Noelle and Finral earlier. Kenos' eyes quickly widened. You heard us too. Asta nodded. I heard what you said about me. About how I'm the first to help people, how I bring out the best in others. How I'm a part of your family. It just made me feel so happy. When I was younger, I always hated that I didn't have magic, but I'm glad I have you and everyone else. I'll take our bond over magic any day. It means more to me than anything in the world. Kenos looked back forward, but he was smiling. You're welcome, and it means a lot to me too, he said as the broom shared between the 2 5-leaf users was silent the rest of the way there. Spark magic. Ground sparks. Within the undisclosed base of the Eye of the Midnight Sun, the voice of Annalise rang out. She punched the ground, sending the decade of spark trails towards her opponent, who happened to be the spatial mage, Valtos. Not bad, he said, jumping around to dodge the attacks. His grimoire came to him and flipped through pages. Spatial magic. Swift space slash. I got it. Spark creation magic. Wall of sparks. Annalise exclaimed as she created her guard. She grinned confidently. Good reaction time. But don't become complacent, Valtos told her as he created a portal in front of his slash. It went into the portal and appeared behind Annalise. Crap, the spark mage muttered as she sensed the mana, but couldn't move fast enough before it grazed her cheek. Alright, that's enough, Valtos instructed. Annalise obeyed, dropping her wall as she put her grimoire back in her satchel. He walked over to her. You're getting better, but you need to stay focused at all times. Even if you've set up a decent defense, your offense is fine as is, but it doesn't hurt to make it stronger. Behind the third eye and licked. When it comes to physical power, you stand pretty high, he advised. Annalise bowed her upper half respectfully. I'll take your words to heart. Thank you for the spar, she said as he too bowed. The spark mage then began to walk out. My attack didn't hurt too much, did it? Valtos asked. Her back was still turned to him as she waved. Don't worry, I'll be fine, I'm tough. Annalise kept walking for a few minutes. Don't be complacent, and better your offense. If I can do that, I'll get stronger, and once I do, I can take out those aqua deer brats, especially Zuka. She might have learned a few tricks, but that won't matter once we meet again. The sound of soft growling pulled the violet-haired girl out of her thoughts. She found herself in a darker, more vast room. A few feet away was the flame spirit, Salamander. It was a lot larger than it was during the battle at Neen, and beside it, petting its head, was the flame mage of the third eye. Hey Fana, Annalise casually greeted as she walked over to her, taking her chance to pet the spirit as well. Hello Annalise, how are you? Fana greeted back, a small smile on her face. I am doing just fine, but something feels off, Annalise mentioned. Veto hasn't come back from his mission in the underwater temple, isn't that weird? It is, but unfortunately, according to our spies, he was killed during the mission by the Black Bulls, and the mages accompanying him had been captured by the Magic Knights, Fana replied, her voice becoming monotonous. Damn it, they beat Veto. What kind of monster do the Black Bulls have? I'm going to miss having him around. He was tough and foul-mouthed, but we're all friends, Annalise said, turning her head to the side. Annalise, your cheek, Fana suddenly stated. The Spark Mage dragged her finger by her cheek and checked it, seeing blood. Oh, this was just from sparring with Voltos, it's nothing. Fana walked over to her and gently placed her hand on the Spark Mage's cheek. A light flame appeared on her cheek. Don't say that. Make sure not to overexert yourself. You're like a little sister to me. She let go, the wound being healed. I appreciate the concern, but what are we going to do about those Magic Knights? The violet-haired girl asked. Don't worry. Those who killed Veto will be overwhelmed by my hate, and be burnt until they are nothing but ash, the Flame Mage said. Annalise lightly smiled. Have I ever told you that you talk funny when making threats? Fana broke into a short giggle. You have, but it seems I'll never change. Good, I don't want you to change, she said as she went up and hugged the female of the third eye. I never really had a family, or siblings, but the Eye of the Midnight Sun is my family now, and you're like a sister to me too, with Voltos as a mentor, Sally like an annoying but lovable little sister, and Raids, Raya, and Veto as my lazy, tough, and wimpy older brothers, and then there's Licht as a caring father. Fana returned the hug. I'm glad you feel that way, I feel the same. Once they two broke their hug, footsteps were heard, they both turned to see another member approaching them. He was of a decent height, and had short, curly green hair. Shiden, is something the matter? Fana asked, her voice quickly shifting to her indifferent one. My apologies for bothering you, Lady Fana, Annalise, but I have received word from one of our spies. They've located the whereabouts of another magic stone, Shiden replied. This caught the attention of the two ladies. Fana stepped up. Where is it? In a place called the Witch's Forest. I see, I'm heading over there, she stated. I'm coming with you, Annalise spoke up. No, Fana quickly countered. You'll stay here and tell the others where I'll be going. Bet, Annalise was about to protest. No buts, Fana said back. I've heard a little bit about that place. The queen that resides there is a powerful mage. You won't be coming with me. If she cannot come, then I shall accompany you, Lady Fana, Shiden offered. Very well. Gather some mages and have them meet me outside in 3 minutes, Fana ordered. As you wish, he replied before quickly exiting the room. Let's go, Salamander, Fana said as she started to walk out as well, the spirit walking behind her. Wait, Annalise called. Fana turned to her. I know why you don't want me to go. You'll think you'll get hurt if we have to face that queen, but promise me that you'll come back. I don't want to lose you. Fana gave her a small smile. I promise. Mother, I guess that's something else I can call you, but it doesn't sit right with me, Vanessa said as she stood before the Queen of Witches. Vanessa, the Queen stated. That's Vanessa Enoteka now, the Thread Mage added. Enoteka, you gave yourself a last name, what's that supposed to mean? It means, wine bar. I thought it seemed appropriate to my favorite pastime, Vanessa replied. So, my daughter has taken up drinking. I assume that Yami Sukahiro has something to do with it. The Queen asked. Nope, it's all because of you. To forget the life I used to live, Vanessa replied. The Queen's eyes narrowed. Is that so? If that's your reason, why have you come back to the place you wish to forget? Because I need a favor. A dear friend of mine has been placed under a curse. It'll ruin his life if it doesn't get fixed, so I want you to teach me, show me how to undo any and all curses. She replied passionately. Teach you how to undo curses. So, you think you can just leave the forest for almost 5 years and then come back when you desperately need help? What an insolent and ungrateful daughter I have, the Queen said, almost chuckling before she looked Vanessa straight in the eye. My answer is no. You left this place for the world beyond the forest. Go seek it for help. TCH, I knew just asking you might not work, but I figured it was worth a try. Time to move on to Plan B. The Queen raised a brow. Plan B. And what might that just be? Vanessa took her grimoire out and pulled on her bundles of thread. We're going to fight, and once I win, you'll have no choice but to agree to help me. Once you win, please Vanessa, you may be my daughter, but you're still imperfect, the green-clad witch said monotonously as she took out her own grimoire. The proper words shouldn't be once you win, rather, it should if you win. While the two witches were going at it, outside the entrance of the forest, the group of magic knights and diamond fugitives had arrived. So this is the witch's forest. It's beautiful, Noel commented. Tell me about it, Kenos added, in awe of the sight of large and luscious trees wherever he looked. We can't lose focus due to the scenery. This is the most dangerous part of the mission, Finral told them all. Dominant, make sure to keep your brooms close to ours so you don't get spotted, he said before starting to fly forward. Wait, Domina said, stopping him right in his tracks. I might be in danger by coming here, but my danger isn't guaranteed. That isn't the case with you. How so? Asta asked. The witch's forest is a bit of a misandrist place with loads of misandrist people. It's forbidden for any men to enter, she explained. What? And you didn't tell us. If we can't go in, that's over half of us taken out of the fight, Keno said. Domina waved Jazz hands in a soft manner. Relax, I have a way to get you in. Don't forget that you're talking to one of the best merchants in the black market. She then reached into her dress and pulled out a folded gray cloth. She then unfolded it, revealing a large tarp. Behold, the cloaking cloak. The cloaking cloak. I'm guessing it's going to make us invisible. The solar mage asked. You got that right, but it doesn't just make you invisible, it cloaks your mana as well, so no one can detect you, she replied. That's awesome, so what are we waiting for? Hand over that cloak, and let's get moving. Asta exclaimed ecstatically. Not so fast. I only have one cloak, and there are 2 brooms with guys on them. If this is going to work, you 2 have to keep your brooms together, Domina instructed the solar and spatial mages. Okay then. Kenos and Finral obeyed, moving their brooms closer to each other as Domina placed the cloak over them. To the perspective of the females, the males disappeared from sight. It worked. We can't see you, Mariella stated. But it seems we can still see you, and everything else around us, Fanzel commented. That's the beauty of this cloak. It also works a bit like binoculars. You can see others, but they can't see you, his wife squealed. Nice work. Now we can finally move in, Kenos said. True, but let's go in slow. We aren't trying to attract any unnecessary attention to ourselves, Domina told them as they all flew into the forest. Wow, the inside is even more beautiful, Mariella commented, noticing all the buildings that were inside the forest. It was almost like they had entered into another world. I know, I'll never forget this place, but I'm a lot happier with you and Zell in my life, Domina said to her. So, where exactly is the Queen's palace? Finral asked. It should be too far away. It stands close to the center of the entire forest. We'll arrive there in a few. The Vortex Mage's words were cut short as a sound was heard. She looked forward to see 2 bulky robot-ish figures coming towards them. They looked to be made out of some kind of mud-like substance. What are those things? Noel asked. They're golems, the forest security system, Domina replied. Shouldn't you be worried then? Kenos asked. Don't worry. The golems are only designed to detect 2 types of intruders, magic beasts, and men. They aren't sophisticated enough to detect outcasted witches. Before I left, I told the Queen their detection capabilities needed work, but now, I'm glad she never implemented them. True to Domina's words, the golem merely passed by them, not seeing them as a threat whatsoever, and of course, they couldn't even see the 4 males accompanying them. Awesome, we owe you one for this cloak, Domina, Fanzel said, praising his wife. Ah, Zell, you're making me blush, Domina responded, childishly holding her face from her husband's words. Hey, Mariella said. Everyone turned their eyes to her as the ice mage looked ahead. I think I can see her palace. The others looked forward too, and lo and behold, the palace was in sight, a good distance away, but in sight nonetheless. Great, this mission so far is going off without a hitch, Keno said with a big smile on his face. He was right though, everything was going fine. Or so he thought. Another pair of golems flew by. Thanks to the previous encounter, the group showed no fear and anxiousness as the bulky mud figures were close to passing them, but unfortunately for the males, as they were flying by, a part of the back of the cloak got stuck on a tree branch, but they didn't notice. Once they kept flying forward, the branch successfully managed to pull the cloak off, unveiling the 4 mages, right as the golems reached them. Noelle turned to her black-haired squadmate. A look of comedic indifference was on her face. You just had to jinx it, didn't you? Don't blame me. How was I supposed to know that was going to happen? Kenos protested. Unfortunately, that didn't stop the fact that the golems were looking right at them, eyes flashing red. Screw going slow. Everybody, fly for your lives, damn it. Domina exclaimed as the 3 brooms began quickly flying towards the castle, the golems on hot pursuit. I have a way to stop them, Mariella spoke up. Do we have a spatial mage here? Yeah, I'm one, Finral replied. Alright, I'm going to take out the golems, but I need you to teleport them onto a soft landing spot. If we let them crash on the ground, it'll only alert more golems and possibly some witches to our location, the ice mage explained. Good plan, I'm with you, the spatial mage responded. Okay Domina, stop your broom, Mariella said. Domina obeyed as the former assassin stood up, looking back at the golems, her grimoire came out. Ice creation magic. Assassin's blade storm. At her call, she created a stream of liquid ice in front of her. From those streams, ice blades of varying sizes shot out, hitting the golems multiple times. They then began falling. Finral, now. On it, spatial magic. Fallen Angel's Gate. He exclaimed, forming 2 portals. The golems fell into the first portal and came out of the second portal, which was directly above a tall tree. Their descent was barely heard. Awesome work you two. Noelle said as they got even closer to the palace. Her eyes then widened as she pointed at the building. Over there. I can feel Vanessa's mana. Wait, Vanessa's here too? Asta asked with surprise. Yeah, we figured she'd be here to try to fix your arms too since she's a witch, Finral replied. And from what I'm sensing, she's the only one there. We can get her out before we even need to worry about an encounter with the queen. And with Vanessa safe, we can then find the queen and ask her to help Asta, Fanzel added as he took out his bladeless sword handle. The wall will have to go first. Kenos, can you lend a hand? Of course, the solar mage replied as he took out his grimoire. Wind creation magic. Emperor of slashing winds. Solar magic. Sunbeam ray. The two spells fired off simultaneously, destroying a large chunk of the palace's wall. The group wasted no time flying in and dismounting, but once they did, their eyes widened. They were expecting to find Vanessa, but what they weren't expecting to find was the queen with a red scythe in her hand, and her foot planted right on the head of an unconscious thread mage. Vanessa, Asta muttered. There's someone else here, how did we not sense her mana? The others thought in unison. The queen slowly shifted her head to look at the group. Oh my, I have intruders, and 4 of them are men. It's been a while since I've seen one. Those golems really need to do a better job, she said before noticing one familiar face among the crowd. Dominant, I didn't expect to see you back, especially after you left this place for the Diamond Kingdom. How have you been? Despite the seemingly kind question by the queen, Domina knew it was just a mask. The mere way she asked it made the vortex mage break into a cold sweat. Fanzel stepped in front of her protectively. Watch it, I won't let you try anything on my wife. Your wife? Oh yes, you're the man she left us for. I hope you're keeping her safe, she said, her voice remaining plain, yet with this underlying threatening tone. Asta stepped forward. What have you done to Vanessa? What have I done? I merely disciplined my daughter. She thought she could defeat me, despite the fact that she's imperfect, so I showed her the errors of her ways, she replied quite calmly. So, I take it you're the queen of witches? Kenos asked seriously. You are correct. So, she's the one who's on the same level as Julius. I can't even sense her mana. She must be hiding it. Similar to Domina's cloak, she's definitely the real deal, the solar mage thought. Noelle flinched. This isn't good. With the queen right next to Vanessa, getting her out of the way just got a lot harder. Maybe I should try Sea Dragon's Roar, but it'll undoubtedly hit Vanessa. What do we? Her thought was interrupted by a sudden, yet familiar exclamation. Get away from Vanessa, Asta exclaimed as he started running towards the queen. The 3 black bulls looked at the swordsman. Of course Asta will just charge ahead, after all, he's the first to help anyone. The queen looked right at the ashen-haired teen running at her, her eyes fell down to his injured limbs. That boy's arms are broken, but that isn't it. He has no magic, and I can feel a curse on them. Could he be the one? She thought before she extended her hand at him. What an imperfect little boy. Then, as almost on cue, crows came out from openings in the building's walls and flew towards Asta, but the boy just kept running. Mind giving me a hand, old man Zell? The magicless mage called. All right. Fanzel called back as he shot a blast of wind at Asta, propelling him into the air, past the crows, and right above the queen. Take this, Asta exclaimed, fashioning his leg for a one-legged dropkick. The queen quickly jumped out of the way as he landed next to Vanessa. I got you, the wind mage exclaimed, carrying the 2 back to the group. The queen looked intently at Asta before pointing at him. You, boy, you have a curse on your arms, don't you? Asta widened his eyes. How did you know? I could sense it on you. I take it you're the one Vanessa came here for. She wanted me to teach her how to undo curses. I refused, and then she wanted to fight me, but of course she couldn't defeat me, as she was losing. She even went as far as to offer herself to be my slave if I just undid the curse on her dear friend, the queen explained. Everyone widened their eyes, especially the magic users of the group, remembering what Domina said about the queen not letting Vanessa leave, but they would have never believed Vanessa would offer herself. A weak voice called out. They all looked down to see Vanessa groaning. She then slowly opened her eyes, but they quickly shot open after a few seconds. What's going on? Why are you all here? And the diamond fugitives? Domina knelt down to her. You tried to fight the queen to help Asta, but you lost. We just saved you. Vanessa quickly stood up and looked at her mother, clenching her fists tightly. What I said still stands. Please help Asta, and I'll stay here. No way am I letting you do that. Asta yelled at her. My arms aren't worth your freedom. Yes they are. Vanessa yelled back. You're an incredible magic knight, and an incredible person. You have so much more to do, even though you weren't gifted with magic. You're right, I wasn't gifted with magic, but do you know what I was gifted with? Great friends. And you're one of those friends. I can't lose you. None of us can lose you. You mean too much. The swordsman protested. Even if that's true, you mean more to us than I do. You brought out the best in the Black Bulls. Ever since you joined, we've become better mages and better people. Why won't you just let me do this for you? The thread mage yelled even louder. Enough. We won't lose you. Asta used his teeth to undo his sling, revealing his discolored arms. He then took out his grimoire and dunked his head in, pulling out the demon dweller's sword with his teeth. The queen, seemingly for the first time, widened her eyes. Could it be the demon dweller's sword? How does a mere human have it? What are you doing? Vanessa asked. Asta knelt down. I'm going to see if my anti-magic sword can break the curse. I haven't tried it yet, but if it could work, everything will be okay, he managed to say as he slammed the sword down on his arm, but that action caused excruciating pain. Ah, he dropped the sword. Stop this, you're only hurting yourself, Vanessa said, trying to help him up. I must say, I'm quite touched, but despite that, none of you are leaving. It's time that I put in a little effort, the queen said, taking out her grimoire. Vanessa will stay here, and the rest of you won't leave this forest alive. She was about to cast a spell, but then a loud noise was heard. What the? Finral said. He and the others turned around, and widened their eyes. Outside the palace, in the forest, smoke rose into the sky as fire was seen. The forest, it's burning, Keno stated. It appears we have more intruders. The queen extended her hand as a large globe came to her. She looked into it to see who was invading her domain. I assume you know who these people are. She swiped her hand up, creating a large screen for everyone else to see. The black bulls all widened their eyes again. The eye of the midnight sun. Finral then pointed at the person in the center of the terrorist group. And isn't that Fana the Hateful, a member of the Third Eye? Oh crap, it is, Asta replied. Veto was already hard enough, and this time, the whole squad isn't together. The Eye of the Midnight Sun, who exactly are they? The queen asked. A terrorist group that is searching for objects called magic stones, Kenos replied. So, I assume they're after this? She asked again. Everyone turned to her as she motioned to her ear, revealing an earring, and the jewel hanging down her ear was a purple triangle. A magic stone. I didn't think we'd find one here, Noelle admitted. The queen was about to reply, but then she felt something else. Well, it seems this terrorist organization aren't the only intruders. What? The queen swiped her hand, showing another part of the forest, and in that other part was a group the fugitives recognized. The Diamond Kingdom. Asta looked up, noticing that Mars was among them. It's Mars. I'm glad to see he survived the collapse in dungeon, but I guess we'll have to battle again. While the swordsman seemed partially happy that the mineral mage was alive, the same emotion wasn't present in the solar mage as he noticed one mage in particular. Brosnan. Kenos angrily narrowed his eyes. Fate has let us cross paths again. I'm going to make you pay Brosnan, today, he thought. Noelle turned to the queen. Okay, at this point, I think we can all agree that both the Eye of the Midnight Sun and the Diamond Kingdom is here to cause trouble for the forest, so why don't we make a deal? The queen raised a brow. What kind of deal? You may be a powerful mage, but even you can't be in two places at once, so if you heal Asta's arms, we'll stop the two groups from destroying the forest, an equivalent exchange, our help for your help, the water mage explained. So, what's it going to be? The queen held her chin, thinking for a few seconds before she looked back at the royal. Very well, what you say is true. Nice work, Noelle, Vanessa praised her. The girl merely flicked her ponytail. Thanks, but were you surprised? I'm royalty, we know how to negotiate, she said confidently, but in her mind, it was a different story. Oh crap, I was so scared. She gives off this mysteriously bad feeling. Luckily I can keep my cool. The queen's grimoire flipped through pages. Blood recovery magic. Curse-breaking blood-filled cocoon. She exclaimed as a large red sphere trapped Asta. From within, the color of his arms began to change back to normal. The sphere then disappeared. There, my half of the deal has been fulfilled. Asta began moving his arms in a windmill motion. Holy crap, it's completely fixed, thank you so much. Vanessa smiled. I'm glad that you're back to normal, and now that you're better, I won't feel guilty about doing this. Asta turned to her with a confused look. Do what? He was asking, but was interrupted as the thread mage pushed him to the ground. The water and spatial mages joined in as the solar mage and the trio of fugitives merely watched. This is for not telling us about your arms in the first place. Vanessa exclaimed. I know it was a sensitive topic for you, but we're your family. She's right, Dirksta. You wouldn't believe how shocked we were when we first heard it. You had us worried sick. Noelle added. As your superior, please don't feel like you can't talk to me when you're troubled. If I hadn't heard you and Owen, we still wouldn't know and would think you'd be just fine. Finral finished. I know you all are angry, but I don't feel anything, Asta said plainly. I guess the queen's spell buffed me up even further. That's true. My recovery spell is quite powerful. Now, I believe you will live up to your end of the deal. The queen responded before asking. Asta grinned as he reached into his satchel, pulling out his magic knight's robe and putting it on, but without his signature blue jacket present, it made him look quite different. He drew out the demon slayer sword and picked up the dweller, holding them both up in front of his chest with the others standing beside him. Of course we will, Let's go, everyone, time to kick some ass.